Nay?
Yes.
Meron lang po kaming class na ina-arrange.
Okay, mga ilang minutes?
Sila kami minutes to. Okay. Okay na yun.
Pagsanib mga bayani ng sining at kultura, lumikha ng sandigan tungo sa kaganapan. Harapin hamon ng bagong panahon, bigyang ilaw ang karinlan. Magsuri pag-isipan ng hulmahan ng ating linangan sa puntahan tungkol sa dulaan. Ituloy ang paghahabi ng kamalayan, paghahabi ng karanasan, paghuhubog ng kasaysayan, tayo't makilahok sa Tampok Sabadulaan. Ha 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 ha. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining, ani ng galing, diwa at damdamin ng taong bayan. Ani ng anyo ng ating pagkatao. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng liwanag ng kamalayan. Ani ng diwa ng taong bayan. Ani ng gabay sa ating paglalakbay. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng likha ng taong malikhain, ating anihin at ihahain. Ani ng saysay, ani ng salaysay, aning kasaysayan ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. Kamalayan, liwanagan, pagdiriwang. Ani ng sining. Ani ng sining ng taong bayan. sa kaganapan. Harapin hamon ng bagong panahon, bigyang ilaw ang karinlan. Magsuri pag-isipan ng hulmahan ng ating linangan sa puntahan tungkol sa dulaan. Ituloy ang paghahabi ng kamalayan, paghahabi ng karanasan, paghuhubog ng kasaysayan, tayo't makilahok sa tampok sabadulaan. Ha, 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 ha. Magandang hapon po sa lahat at salamat sa inyong paglahok at pakikinig dito sa Tampok Sabadulaan, Saturday Conversations on Theater o kuntahan tungkol sa dulaan tuwing Sabado. Ang Tampok ay isang flagship project ng National Commission for Culture and the Arts, Committee on Dramatic Arts. Simulan po natin ang hapong ito sa isang pagpupugay sa ating bansa at sa ating bandila. Mga kaibigan, para magbigay ng pambungad na pagbati, narito ang pinuno ng NCCA Committee on Dramatic Arts, si Ginoong Felimon Blanco.
Maayong hapon sa tanan. Welcome to Tampok Sabadulaan Saturday Conversations on Theater. Tampok is the flagship project of the National Committee on Dramatic Arts of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, which aims to create a space for the reflection on some of the country's best practices in building a curriculum for theater praxis and to examine the challenges in the formation of a curriculum on Philippine theater. We are now on our 6th week. We thank you all for your continued support as we continue the discourse on the creation of the blueprint of an Academy of Philippine Theater. What will it be like? What will be its pedagogy, its form, its content, its structure? Let the discussion continues as we are all part in the shaping of this academy. This afternoon, we will listen to a sharing of ideas and visions from our outstanding development workers come theater practitioners who are directly engaged in the use of theater in the aspects of development and governance. My sincerest thanks to our invited panel of speakers for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. I know how busy is the life of a development/government worker, but your voices and your experiences in the field are equally important to the envisioned academy. According to Augusto Boal, nothing is going to remain the way it is. Let us, in the present, study the past so as to invent the future. In behalf of the NCCA National Committee on Dramatic Arts, I would like to virtually welcome you all to the 6th online conversation of Tampok Sabadulaan, Saturday Conversations on Theater. Be inspired of the Filipino artistry and creativity. Tara na't makitampok. To share the synthesis of last week's Tampok Sabadulaan, here is the convener of Tampok, Ms. Desa Quisada Pam.
Ngayong hapon, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. In behalf of the National Committee on Dramatic Arts and also the Conduit, our organization, the Youth Advocates through Theater Arts, I welcome you to Tampok Sabadulaan. We're on the 6th episode and I just wanted to connect us to the previous sessions no, para we could locate no, kung nasa na tayo dun sa diskurso paglalakbay natin. So again, next slide. So nasa yung first 5 natin, again, we had gone through establishing the rationale, then establishing the context no, of in relation to past CDA projects, in relation to the study on Philippine values, but also sa rich history ng cultural work at ng theater movement. And then we had gone to a discussion of theater and heritage in relation to establishing the Philippine Theater Academy. We had, again, illustrious resource persons who joined us. And then theater and education, so mas in relation to the academe. And then last week, we had a very robust and heartwarming discussion with a panel on the professional theater in relation to establishing the Philippine Theater Academy. Next slide. So ito pong recap ko ay really called from a synthesis na binuo ni Bong Antonio on the Philippine Theater Academy from the lens of professional theater artists. Next slide. So ang mga panauhin natin last week ay si Ginoong Odi Hemora from PhilStage but also from Trumpets, si Beng Santos Cabangon from PETA, Philippine Educational Theater Association, at si Nanding Josef from Tanghalang Pilipino. At maganda, naalala ko yung sinabi nga nila na sa una, may panahon na parang magtutunggali, no? Parang opposing camps ang Repertory Philippines and ng PETA. But through the years, no, through the maturing of relations also and the bridging of certain people, ngayon ay bahagi na sila ng isang network at nagtutulungan ang isa't isa. Next, please. So, ang pagkalap ng lessons no, from the synthesis is really to look at the benchmarks that we could acquire from the professional theater scene. Next. So, ito po ang ilan sa mga lessons learned from that panel. No? So, the existence of benchmarks that the academy can refer to will include one, you see the professionalization of the theater practice as embodied by PhilStage, which has more than 30 organizations in its network. Yung isang blueprint na that was written up way back in the 1960s, no, the national vision and mission of a Philippine theater movement. Pero its pursuit was also anchored on the changing context and the development of the nation, which PETA had been instrumental in building. Nandun din ang the pedagogy and academic practice no ng bawat organization ng PETA, ng Kamalayang Pilipino, ng Tanghalang Pilipino, nandun din ang play shop at maraming nagsulputan ng mga summer workshops and emerging forms no, during the pandemic. Nandun din yung benchmark of the networks and the connections that are in place. No? And we have seen this grow hindi lang sa National Capital Region, pero sa buong archipelago. And also the ways and means of shaping the new theater communities and networks in all parts of the country. No? Paano ba ito hinugis at paano ito binuo? Next. So some of the other, next slide please. Ito. So, bahagi din ng pagtatanong ay ano kaya magiging itsura nito at anong lalamanin nito, no? So, even at this point, part of the benchmarks established is that meron ng existence of art schools and institutions. There are physical centers, virtual and seasonal na academies, no? Nandun din siguro pwede nating pagugutan yung the state of national aesthetics of Philippine theater. Nandun din yung growing na market of current institutions catering to theater and arts training. And then the bench of government support and the support of the private sector. And then finally, yung development use of theater and the arts, its impact to national and local development. Ano ba ang mga impacts nito? No? Paano ba ito sinasalamin din sa ating gawain? Next, please. Nandun din, nabanggit din, and common ito in all organizations, yung state of interaction ng artistic practices among the practitioners. Including na dyan, hindi lang again yung parang the city center, pero the interactions with regional practitioners. Kasama na din yan yung ilang mga experiences ng mga professional theater groups working with indigenous peoples. The artists that we have produced, no, for example, marami ang nabubuhay as freelance. No? Ang tanong nga, have we developed a generation of artists with integrity? Meron din yung the state of culture and arts policies. And ang tanong is, how will the existing laws and policies contribute or restrict the formation of the academy? No? Ano yung symbiosis na yon? Then, there is also the shaping and practices of the current trailblazers, mga artists and cultural workers. Ito parang yung isang reflection point din ni Bong, sabi niya, can we produce a template based on some of these individuals, Odi, Beng, and Nanding, and countless others who have really become such role models no, ng theater practice. Meron din yung the interactions amongst other sectors. And finally, ano din yung we could reflect as a benchmark on the state of innovations ng professional theater. So the next slide is related to critical steps, no? What next? So again, echoing yung mga other previous na sessions, no, the value of research. Ano ba ang, for example, looking at the value chain of drama and theater making in the Philippines. No? Kasi hindi lang naman yan natatapos sa isang produkto, pero may proseso ding dinadaanan at binubuo. Again, baka maganda to have a list of the academic elders natin, but also yung representation of younger practitioners who have a lot to share also sa ating academy. Also sana malagyan talaga natin ng feasibility study and to look at the market beyond the financials but also other aspects of sustainability. And finally, no, sana mabuo at laging ang consultations ay laging existing and robust, no, of multidiscipline and also multisectoral na networks. So, yun po ang pinanggagalingan natin from the previous na Tampok Sabadulaan. Maraming salamat. At ngayon naman, gusto kong tawagin our beloved Tampok Conference Director, si Lutgardo Gardilabad, para i-situate ulit tayo sa kahalagahan ng paksa natin para sa araw na ito. Gardy?
Hello sa lahat ng nanonood at nakikinig sa amin. Naririnig ba ako? Okay, good.
Yes.
So, alam mo, napakaswerte nitong Sabadulaan. Sa ika-anim na ito, ay Diyos ko, parang hitik na hitik, harvest na harvest, lahat ng mga na naririnig at napapakinggan natin, nakikita natin, ay punong-puno ng karanasan na napaka-invaluable, naka-precious para makita natin yung kabuuan ng National Theater Experience. And we really feel itong experience na ito ay makakatulong sa pagbubuo nitong akademyang isang pangarap natin. Okay? Sa araw na ito, another kind of experience ang maririnig natin. Narinig natin yung professional. Narinig natin yung mga academics. Narinig natin yung mga nasa kasaysayan. Okay? Ngayon, mapapakinggan natin, huwag kayong magugulat, ang mga nasa gobyerno. Nasa gobyerno, ang artist nasa gobyerno, ang culture worker nasa gobyerno. Opo, yan ang bukod tanging experience na mahahatid itong apat na experts na ito. Sapagkat ang kanilang praxis ay nanggagaling sa karanasan kung paano nila ipinagtanggol ang sining ang kabilin, ang pamana ng lahi doon mismo sa pusod ng governance. Okay? Anong ibig pong sabihin niyan? Hindi po madali na magkaroon ka ng isang gobyerno na magiging matingkad ang pagmamahal sa arts and culture. Hindi po lahat ng mayor o governor o mga councilor kasi ano na naman pwede na may arts naman tayo sa sport, may sports na tayo, may pesta tayo, okay na yun. Hindi po. Sapagkat alam natin na ang arts ay sining isang essential component ang pagbubuo ng tao, pagbubuo ng community, at pagbubuo ng bansa. Itong apat na ito ay merong bukod tanging achievement sa paglalaban, pag-advocate kung paano nila naitanghal ang kahalagahan ng arts, sining, heritage sa buong kalakalan ng governance. Okay? So, si Jonas, nasa SAMAR. Okay? Pero ang laki ng experience niya dyan ng kanyang opisina, ang tawag ay CACO. Si Al, nasaan si Al? Nandoon sa kabilang mundo ng kabisayaan. Nandoon sa CAPIZ. Okay? Pero, limpak-limpak nagwagin ng mga corona. Okay? Bumaba kayo sa amin dito sa BOHOL. Pero kami eksperto dito na nanggaling sa NGO. Ha? Tapos ngayon, nasa governance. Pero sila lamang dito sa gobyerno ito sa BOHOL, nakapagtayo ng isang arts program. And of course, dyan sa Luzon, ng ating kaibigan na si Arman. Happy birthday ulit, Arman. Okay? Ay, siya po na itanghal ng naging BUSWACC ang BULACAN, ang Malolos dahil nandoon siya sa city, nandoon siya sa province noon. At saka pinalakandakan niya talaga ang arts and sining ng BULACAN. Paano nila ginawa yun? Dapat ba itong ituro sa mga artists natin? Dapat. Dapat kasi ang academy hindi na magtuturo kung paano sila magiging artista, pero paano sila magiging leader, kung paano sila magiging teacher, paano sila bubuo ng network, paano sila magprograma. Ang dream ng academy ay sila mabuo as artists, teachers, leaders. Kaya itong apat na ito ang magbibigay sa atin ng kanilang best practice na sa tingin natin ay napakahalaga para sa pag-aaral ng mga estudyante sa Academy of Philippine Theater. Yan po.
Our moderator for today's Tampok Sabadulaan is a community-engaged, interdisciplinary teaching artist with the heart of a cultural worker. Her background in AB Psychology and Masters in Educational Theater for Communities, New York University with support from Ford International Fellowship Program, complements her meaning-making and process-oriented art practice she calls soul work. She serves as Assistant Professor in Fine Arts Program, University of San Agustin, Iloilo, Philippines. She also serves as former Dramatic Arts Executive Committee member of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, our moderator, Miss Maria Rosalia Beto Zerudo.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Live po from Iloilo. I'm joining you and mano po sa mga tatang, mga nanay, mga auntie, mga sister, mga sisters and moms. Hakos sa mga kaberks, beshies. Maayong hapon, maadyong hapon bujol. Maupay nga kulop sa Kalbayog. Magandang hapon po diyan sa Bulacan at mayad nga hapon sa Panay at buong Pilipinas. Masayang masaya at masaganang malusog na hapon po sa buong Pilipinas. Sana po ay nasa maayos kayong kalusugan at kagandahang isip, loob, salita at gawa. This is such an honor po to be moderating the 6th Tampok Sabadulaan as an important gathering of respected culture icons coming from different regions, Bulacan, CAPIZ, BOHOL, and Calbayog. The theme for this afternoon session is Theater in Development and Governance. This is a great opportunity to listen to the best practices of how theater was institutionalized as the forefront in governance and community mobilization. Let us embrace the genius and learn from the wisdom of our hands-on, hard-working, cultural worker exemplar, and most of all, culturally conscious public servants. So at this point, I would like also to introduce to you our synthesizer. Our synthesizer for today is Lea Lastrilla Espaliardo, a resident member of PETA since 1988 and the current head of the PETA Artist Welfare Fund Committee. She served as program director of PETA's Women's Theater Program from 1997 to 2002 and Mekong Partnership Program 2004 to 2012. For decades, she has taken an active role in pursuing cultural work and sharpening PETA's women's theater aesthetics and pedagogy by developing groundbreaking projects for the company through its performances, education, and partnership programs. She was also responsible for developing pioneering training curriculum on creative pedagogy as applied to blended learning, gender justice, body politics, theater and therapy, and human rights education, to name a few. She led pioneering cross-cultural events, such as the first Asia-Pacific Festival Conference of Women in the Arts, the annual Mekong Performing Arts Laboratory, the annual Arts for Advocacy Fellowship, and the first Mekong Arts and Media Festival. On top of her continuing work as a dedicated artist teacher of PETA, Lea is also involved in teachers training workshops on transformative pedagogies, global citizenship education, sustainable development, peace and education for international understanding organized by UNESCO, Asia Pacific Center of Education for International Understanding, and Peace Education Project, or MOMO. Let's all welcome our all-around woman, the superwoman, Lea.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Salamat po, Ma'am Lea. Thank you for joining us and for being our synthesizer this afternoon, Sabadulaan, Tampok Sabadulaan. Isang kagalang-galang po na isang opportunity to be part of this Tampok. And ang sabi nga, isang tanong ng ating ginoong mahal na Nestor Hardin, makakain ba ang kultura? Sabi nga daw, hindi. Pero ito daw ang bubuhay sa atin. So this afternoon, we're happy to have with us our revered and respected manong, kuya, at walang kapagurang non-stop cultural worker, ang ating caregiver, at ang ating public servant na pinakamamahal. Mag-uumpisa po sa ating magiging kapanayam ngayong hapon ay galing po sa atin po dito sa Panay. Ang galing po sa CAPIZ. So I would like to introduce to you our first resource person. Our first speaker po is Mr. Alfonso Dalisay Tesoro, or we lovingly call him Al. He serves as the Provincial Tourism and Cultural Affairs Officer for the province of CAPIZ. He is the President, Artistic Director of Dagway Sigmahanon Incorporated, a community theater based in Sigma, CAPIZ, which was organized in May 2000. He headed the Subcommission on Cultural Communities and Traditional Arts from 2017 to 2019, the Committee on Central Cultural Communities from 2014 to 2019, and the Hiligaynon Ilonggo Kinaraya Aklanon Cluster for 2 terms under the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. From 2014 to 2016, he was elected National President for the Association of Tourism Officers of the Philippines. Friends, let us welcome cultural worker, arts manager, stage director, community organizer, and festival manager educator, youth formator, Mr. Al Tesoro.
Madamawid niya salamat, Rosa. Maayong hapon sa tanan. Magandang hapon po. I felt honored to be invited in this weekly conversation. And so I'm happy to share with you our experience here in CAPIZ on theater in development and governance. First slide, please. So I'd like to lay down, saan ba nanggagaling yung mandatos? Bakit kami nakaisip ng mag-involve ang ating community theater or local performing arts sa governance? At bakit yung ating mga community theaters ay deeply involved through yung advocacies, no, towards local development through the performing arts? Ano bang pinangugutan nito? So I'd like to enumerate anong mga mandatos ng local government unit, at ito ang nanggagaling, no? Itong aming basihan. Una, ang Philippine Constitution. So sa preamble, makikita natin dyan yung sinasabi that the state shall foster preservation, enrichment, no, ng Filipino national culture. Sinasabi din sa Section 18 ng Constitution na the state shall ensure equal access to cultural opportunities. So, dyan mismo sa Philippine Constitution ay nagsasaad ng ating rights to culture ng bawat Pilipino. Ano pa ang mga pinagagalingang o pinaghuhugutan namin dito sa CAPIZ? Ang RA 7160 or Local Government Code. Sabi dito, within the respective territorial jurisdictions, local government units shall ensure and support, among other things, the preservation and enrichment of culture. At nasa provincial government po ako, doon sa Section 17 ang sabi for the province, sabi ay tourism development and promotion programs. Ito ang isa sa mga functions, no, ng provincial government. Next slide, please. Isa pang batas na pinagagalingan ng aming mandato ay ang Republic Act 9593 or kilala na Tourism Act of 2009. Yan po ay malinaw na nakasaad na ang local government unit kasama ng ahensya ng Department of Tourism ay dapat mag-cultivate ng sinasabing culture of tourism. Anong culture of tourism? Ito ay developmental principle wherein the public sector and the private sector come together para mag-achieve, no, to achieve that so-called sense of pride, sense of place. And then another basis of our programming for culture and the arts in the province is the Philippine Development Plan, no, which is Chapter 7, na doon ay sinasaad yung promoting Philippine culture and values. So every time na gumagawa kami ng plano on cultural development, ay yan ang aming kinukonsulta. Isa yan sa aming mga Biblia, no, when crafting our cultural development plan dito sa province. At saka sa atin naman na mga agreements, no, international agreements, isa rin sa batayan ay yung 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage. So merong 5 domains yan, no? Isa dyan ang performing arts, ang crafts, no, at iba pa. And then of course ito yung sustainable development goals na bago dyan ay we have this Millennium Development Goals. Okay. Next slide. So, anong aming response? No? Anong pinagagawa namin dito sa CAPIZ? Considering na yan po ang mga tungkulin ng isang local government unit. Una ay ang creation ng Provincial Tourism and Cultural Affairs Office. Kami po ay iilan sa mga probinsya sa buong Pilipinas na ang tourism office ay isang departamento, no? Ibig sabihin ay may sariling budget at may mga personnel. And it was created in 2010 in response to Republic Act 9593, yung Tourism Code, at the same time sa Republic Act 166, which is the Heritage Act of 2009. Ito, pinagsabay namin, no? Inintegrate namin ang turismo at cultural development, culture and arts promotion sa isang opisina na ideally isang departamento ang tourism, isang departamento ang culture. Pero ito'y inintegrate namin at we are always presenting this as another model. No, may maraming nagtatanong, pwede ba 'yan? No? Sa amin pwede, and it worked. And ito'y benchmark ng ilang probinsya na rin. So may maririnig kayong mga opisina na provincial government sa Luzon at Mindanao at even dito sa Visayas na meron silang Provincial Tourism and Cultural Affairs Office. Sa ngayon, I have 64 personnel and managing several tourism and cultural facilities like library, the provincial park, eco park and cultural village, and even our Hall of Governors. Then another initiative that we did is crafting of tourism development plan and cultural development plan. Alam niyo po, merong circular memo sa Department of Budget and Management na requiring all local government units na maglaan ng pondo para sa cultural development. At ako'y natutuwa at ang aming provincial budget officer ang palaging nag-remind sa akin yan at nagsasabi, Al, binigyan kita ng ganitong amount for that for cultural development. And then another initiative is the inclusion of culture, heritage, and arts enrichment program in the annual development plan or annual investment plan. So malinaw po yan, every time that we prepare annual budget ay palaging ini-emphasize na hindi lang kami dapat ang may programa on culture and arts, kundi ang iba pang opisina ay dapat mahagip din nila yung cultural development sa kanilang annual investment plan. Mamaya ipapakita ko po yan. And then, the cultural development is included in the executive and legislative agenda. Kaya nagpapasalamat ako sa suporta ng aming executive branch with our Governor Nonoy Contreras, at suportado ito ng Sangguniang Panlalawigan headed by our Vice Governor Vice Governor James Magbanwa. So nakikita diyan ano ang mga legislative interventions, kung ito ang mga executive na initiatives coming from the executive department, the executive branch, ano ang the corresponding executive or legislative actions. Okay? Next slide, please. Then crafting of tourism code. We crafted our tourism code with substantial provisions of culture and the arts. Binabanggit din dyan yung creative industries, ang bibigay pahalaga sa creative industries. And then also mentioned is the importance on our marginalized sector, the PWDs, the indigenous peoples, the women. At sila ay merong puwang doon sa mga cultural development initiatives. And it is also mentioned on the environmental protection as well as the practice of green tourism, no? Child-friendly tourism and cultural development programs. Then establishment of Provincial Culture and Arts Council. Hindi lang po yan, we have also the Provincial Tourism Council. So dalawang local special bodies. Dito po sa Culture and Arts Council, 60% dito ay coming from the private sector. So we have from the business sector, no, the Chamber, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry ay nakaupo din dyan. The indigenous peoples, both from the Panay Bukidnon and Aita, no, community, arts organizations, mga cultural workers are included in the Culture and Arts Council. And then the inclusion of tourism, culture, and the arts, programs, plans, and activities, and the Gender of Development Plan. So malaki-laki po ang budget namin dito sa Gender and Development Plan. And so we have this so-called gender-friendly tourism development program. Kaya it's a year-round na program na kung saan ay kasali yung ating mga kababaihan at syempre boys and girls at ang ating mga kalalakihan, especially in a community-based tourism enterprises na integrated ang performing arts sa mga CBTEs na to. Then, safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage as a major program of the CAPIZ Institute of Living Traditions. Ito po yung aming tinatawag na Balay CAPIZ noon, a project with the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. At dito namin tinataguyod ang the safeguarding, no, and the transmission of ICH. Next slide. Forging of partnerships and linkage building with cultural institutions, NGAs, academe, business sector, NGOs, and other stakeholders. Malakas po yung aming ugnayan sa aming private sector. We have also partnership with our two universities, one private university and one state university. And itong partnership ay through a memorandum of agreement, no? Hindi lang sa tourism but cultural development. Meron kami isang university dito na nag-o-offer ng bachelor in cultural education. And even sa mga tourism courses ay integrated na elective subject ang heritage tourism kasi I was able to advocate it, and lately ay nagturo ako ng indigenous tourism. Nagtaka ako, sabi ko bakit may ano ba ang nag-push sa inyo at may inyong elective na indigenous tourism. Sabi nung dean, because they are inspired of what you are doing in the province. So nilagay nila na merong elective na subject sa kurso ng BS Tourism Management. And then ang CAPIZ po ay mapalad to be the first or the pilot area ng Project BUSILAC ng Subcommission on Cultural Heritage ng NCCA sa cultural mapping. At so entire province ay nagkaroon kami ng cultural mapping. Ang Rojas City ngayon ay may unti-unting pinagpapatuloy yung cultural mapping, but the entire province, all municipalities ay meron na pong cultural profile. And then the city they have their own heritage ordinance, no? And they have just declared yung kanilang city center as a heritage zone. And then the promotion of CAPIZ non-intangible cultural heritage in tour packages and itineraries. Kaya ito ang gustong-gusto ng mga turista, especially the foreigners. At sabi nga sa akin ng Tourism Promotions Board na sabi niya, we have hit daw the market kasi malakas yung aming cultural tourism, especially for the European market. Dahil incorporate namin sa aming tour packages yung storytelling, yung traditional games, even mga oral traditions, the performing arts, no? And the luwa, the banggianay, and the kumposo, no? Sa pangkalahatan ay the traditional, no, na performing arts. And we were able to craft the so-called balay-balay program promoting the intangible cultural heritage. At meron po kaming module dito, and this is being supported by our academe in the province and even educational institutions in the region. And then the allocation from the 20% ERA or the Internal Revenue Allotment Fund for cultural infrastructures and cultural spaces. Kaya natutuwa po ako at may binibigyan kami ng allocation sa pagpagawa ng provincial park, sa pagpagawa ng provincial library, and then ng aming cultural village, no, the Eco Park and Cultural Village. It's a 9-hectare facility at doon makikita yung sa ngayon meron kaming dinedevelop na traditional agri-farm doon maliban sa Institute for Living Traditions. So that's the government's response to the mandates which I have mentioned a while ago. And of course, yung masigla din na response initiatives ng aming mga kabayanan, ng aming mga component na local government units sa buong lalawigan. So, I'd just like to present to you yung ilang grupo, no, dito sa province of CAPIZ that are into performing arts, no, and theater arts. First is Dagway Sigmahanon. Okay, modesty aside, I organized this 20 years ago. We celebrated our 20th year itong May 26. And we have prepared sana maraming mga performances, but because of this pandemic, we have to postpone it muna. But yung entusiasmo ng mga kabataan ay nandyan pa rin. Yung grupong ito ay 2004 Galing Pook awardee, no, that under the Trailblazing program, at dito namin napatunayan na ang teatro ay 100 para sa local development kasi nakapag-ugnayan kami sa iba't ibang programa, hindi lang ng local government unit, kundi sa mga programa ng ahensya ng gobyerno like UNDP, like UNICEF, UNFPA, at iba't ibang mga international NGOs. Ang grupo ding ito ay awardee, no, Alab ng Haraya awardee ng National Commission for Culture and the Arts at partner ng PETA ng Teatrocon, no, in the region, at the same time recipient ng iba't ibang programa ng NCCA and the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Ang maganda dito, we have produced from the theater actors, we have produced isang konsihal ng bayan, isang doctor in education, at maraming teachers, at sa ngayon ay mga frontliners sa laban sa COVID, no? At they are being productive in the community as it was envisioned when it was organized. Another group which is worth to mention is, next slide please, is the Cuartero National High School Taliamba in Sam. It hugged the limelight in 2018 when it was declared as one of the 10 accomplished youth organizations in the entire country, with their program entry enhancement, enhanced LOA documentation initiatives. Ito po ay school-based sa Cuartero National High School with their advisor, si Sir Rami. At ito ay bahagi ng kanilang curriculum sa SPA, Special Program for the Arts, at yung specifically sa theater arts, in which they're integrating music, visual arts, theater, no? At ang maganda dito ay they were inspired by the result of the cultural mapping program doon sa kanilang bayan. In fact, later on, pinagpatuloy ng mga estudyante yung pag-profiling ng kanilang iba't ibang practices doon, no? Naging cultural mappers ang mga estudyante na members nito, at nagkaroon ng yung documentation ng luwa ay binabahagi nila, no, sa mga performances, at even doon sa isang subject, no, sa subject doon sa SPA at sa buong sa curriculum. Ngayon ay yung kanilang pondo ay nagbebenta na sila ng mga yung mugs and t-shirts, pero ang twist doon ay nakaprint ang LOA. So yung LOA, it's a verbal jostle, di ba, na yung dati kinakanta ito sa patay, no, as during the week, just to pass away the time, pero it's actually an oral tradition. At na-appreciate ng mga kabataan kung gaano kahalaga, kaya nagkaroon ng interaction ito with the cultural masters. So we have this luwa sa tasa, sa mug, nakaprint na doon, at luwa sa panapton, sa t-shirt, at pinagbebenta nila, at nagkakaroon sila ng fund dito for the continuous project. Next slide, please. Ito, for almost more than 50 years ito na ginagawa ng isang community theater sa Pilar, CAPIZ, yung reenactment ng Battle of Balisong, which happened in June 7, 1898. This is a reenactment of a historical event in which the local CAPIZ noon, revolutionaries, staged a gallant battle against the Spanish forces. At ang maganda dito, yung mga actors ay hindi lang kabataan kundi ang community, yung mga anak, yung mga apo, kamag-anak ng mga local revolutionaries na kasali doon sa uprising, no? At the elders, the women. So yung buong town ay naging isang malaking stage every year during the staging of their town fiesta or their anniversary ng kanilang bayan. And they've been doing that for almost more than 50 years. And another community theater, next slide please, is ito yung sa President Rojas, no, yung Passion ni Cristo. For almost 50 years then, it's a community theater, church-based siya, and yung may support din siya from the local government. Next slide. Next slide, please. So what we are looking forward, revival of Sarsuela and Comedia through our Institute of Living Traditions. Then the documentation, publication of local folk tales, myths and legends, traditions, which is a continuing project. And then we are looking forward for the establishment of a provincial radio station and FM by the end of the year. We are given a slot for culture and the arts, no, time slot. Then the establishment of college, of CAPIZ College of Arts and Trades, no, which will be established next year. So sa mga questions natin, next slide. On question 1, based on your context, praxis, and pedagogy, how can this contribute to the shaping of the Academy of Philippine Theater? Number 1, yung una, yung may contribute namin, yung aming experience on mainstreaming culture in governance. No? Paano namin na mainstream siya ang cultural development, ang performing arts sa local governance. Then the network and linkage building and grassroots organizing. Isa yan sa yaman din namin dito. Then the intangible cultural heritage in dramatic arts, the integration of ICH. Kasi halimbawa doon sa amin, sa Dagway Sigmahanon, we've been doing that, integration of Composo, the Bangi-Anay, the Luwas, way back then, no? Since 2000. Then usage of cultural mapping result or the cultural profile in our plans, no? Even in our festivals, because we're able to integrate all this. Then last is the interdepartmental convergence and synergy building within the local government structure. Kasi meron kaming convergence. Ano ba ang role ng social welfare and development sa cultural development ng aming provincial health office, ng aming planning office, ng aming assessor's office sa cultural development, ng provincial government general services office, no, ng Sangguniang Bayan. So diyan nagkakaroon kami ng convergence dito sa province of CAPIZ. Anong ginagawa ng budget office, ng treasurer's office towards the our cultural development initiative. Okay? So yan ay very nagmamanifest yan dito sa provincial government, in which we would like to share, no, in the formation of the academy. Second question. Next slide. Second to the last. Sa content naman, no, what should be the content and methodology of Academy of Philippine Theater? Una, ang sa palagay namin is organizing community theater and its sustainability. Ano yung manpower and logistics, no? Ito yung kailangan para sa amin, yung content. And then the crisis management planning for cultural workers and theater artists. Dumating ang bagyo, no? Dumating si Yolanda, dumating yung katakot-takot na catastrophe, for example, or itong pandemic. So ano ba? Parang we are caught unaware. So kailangan meron tayong crisis management planning, no? At tinuturo yan sa atin. And then, of course, resource generation, which is also the lifeblood of any community theater. The methodology we suggest for cultural exchange or immersion, and then modular ito, no, na maibahagi sa mga mag-aaral dito. And for the last question, what should the structure, no, physical, human, organizational look like for the academy? One is establishment of regional learning centers through the existing networks in the region. And then last, parang may field school tayo, no, for immersion purposes as learning centers sa mga established na theater groups or theater companies sa bawat probinsya. Yan lang po, maraming salamat. Madamo rin niya salamat, mayong hapon.
Mr. Al Tesoro ng CAPIZ, thank you so much po for enriching our lives po. Your your work is really actually worth all these awards, no? You're being one of the most wonderful example, the best example. I think pwede na maging Bible ito sa buong Philippines. Paano ba yung culture and governance? I think you already have shown us the fully integrated na buhay, no? Buhay na gobyerno na nakikialam sa buhay ng tao, at the same time may malasakit, no? Merong puso na galing sa governance, paano ginagawa sa community. So you mentioned na kailangan merong sense of pride, may sense of place, no? Buhayin yung community, buksan yung kanilang isip to appreciate their own culture. At talaga pong napakaganda po ng mga ginagawa ninyo na you're making this mainstreaming your culture in your governance, no? Grassroots organizing. Napakalawak po ng mga pananaw, no? Na parang gusto ko nang imagine natin na kung kayang gawin ito sa CAPIZ, pwede ba natin gawin din ito sa lahat ng ating mga probinsya, na ganito po ang benchmark natin ngayon sa paggawa ng governance na merong kultura, na buhay yung kultura, embedded, it's the backbone of the governance. No? So dito pa lang po, sa umpisa pa lang, no, na enriching, no, punong-puno na po, busog na busog yung hapon natin sa unang pa lang, no, ating galing CAPIZ na experience. Sana po maging matularan natin yung ganitong klaseng holistic na pananaw, pioneering, proactive, no, trailblazer na probinsya, at napakagaling ng pag-link, no? I think ito yung isa strength nila. Paano na-link yung galing sa gobyerno, academe, indigenous community, private sector. Napakaganda po. Very strong linkage. At the most important thing is, talagang ginawang institutionalized, may budget ang programs, may suporta galing sa government. No, isang talaga ito na yung kultura, turismo, yung buhay, tangible and intangible, sinama siya at ginawa siyang mainstream. Talagang isang napakagaling na halimbawa na ito na nga siguro pwede maging Bible talaga natin. So, napakaganda po. Ako po personal na nakasalamuha at naka-experience ng luwa, ng Banggianay, ng Pumposo. Punong-puno po ang puso ko every time na bumalik ng CAPIZ. Kuya Al, maraming salamat po dahil ang buhay niyo po ay isang inspirasyon sa aming lahat. No? Mahal na mahal po kayo namin. More power po. Tuloy po yung ating laban sa kultura. Ito po yung napakagandang laban, napakagaling, masayang laban. So sana po maging matagumpay pa po ang iba niyo mga programa. Congratulations po. Maraming salamat. At ngayon naman po, dadako tayo sa napakagaling ding mga tao na nagbigay din ng sobrang halaga sa kultura sa kanilang bayan. At ito ay napaka-importanting karanasan na ibabahagi sa atin ng isa din pong isang cultural icon din po na galing ng Bulacan. Gusto ko pong ipakilala sa inyo si Armando Sta Ana. Mr. Armando Pilapil Sta Ana has served in many capacities as City Tourism Arts and Culture Officer of the City of Malolos from 2010 to the present, as Head of the Arts and Culture Division for the Province of Bulacan from 2003 to 2010, as Artistic Director and Vice President of Baraswain Kalinangan Foundation Incorporated, which he founded in 1980, as a member of the Board of Directors of the Luzon Theater and Culture Network, and as former member of the Executive Council of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, Committee on Dramatic Arts. He is instrumental in founding and managing the Singakaban Fiesta for the province of Bulacan and Fiesta Republica for the city of Malolos. Arman has directed and written more than 80 plays, many of which are based on local history and heritage. For his contributions to cultural work, he has received the Gawad ng Pagkilala from the Komisyon ng Wikang Filipino, Gawad CCP para sa Sining, and CCP 2004 Pilak Honori from the Cultural Center of the Philippines. The Gawad sa Gisag Kultura ng Filipino from the Sept and NCCA, among others. Friends, let us warmly welcome our award-winning, pioneering visual artist, theater artist, tourism and cultural manager, and cultural worker, ang mahal po naming Armando Sta Ana.
Magandang araw po. Ito po si Arman ng Bulacan. Ang ibabahagi ko po sa inyo ngayon ay ang aking 25 taong pakikipagtalamitam sa gobyerno. So ako po ngayon, para po sa kaalaman ng lahat, ay isa ng retirado na empleyado ng gobyerno. Pero masasabi ko po na sa panahong iyon ako po ay wearing two hats always in 25 years. Kasi po ako po ay in my private capacity, ako po ay artistic director ng Baraswain Kalinangan, a theater company in Bulacan. Tapos at the same time, sa 25 years na yon, ay 15 years na sa provincial government ako, no? At 10 years akong nagtrabaho naman sa city government of Malolos. So yung buong 25 years na yon, at habang ako ay nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno, ako ay patuloy na nagdidirect ng dula, nagsusulat, nagdidirect at umaarte sa mga pagtatanghal ng Baraswain Kalinangan Foundation na nakalibot halos sa buong mundo, sa buong Pilipinas ng aming mga dula. So ang ikikwento ko po sa inyo ngayon ay ito yung huling stage ng aking government service, no? Yung 10 years ko sa Malolos na bilang Supervising Tourism Operations Officer. But before that, siguro bago ko ikwento ng diretso itong tungkol sa Malolos, gusto kong balikan lang yung aking first 15 years sa probinsya as cultural officer ng province ng Bulacan. Sa panahon na yun, sa 15 years na yon, iyan yung malaking kontribusyon ng Baraswain Kalinangan sa cultural work ng buong probinsya, no? Kasi sa 15 years na yon ay nakalikha ang Baraswain Kalinangan ng siguro more than 20 plays about local heroes ng Bulacan. Ito yung naging isang panata ng grupo na ipangalandakan o gawing inspirasyon yung mga buhay ng mga heroes na to. Hindi lang ng heroes, kundi ng mga national artists natin. Kasi for all you know, ang Bulacan kasi we have the most number of national artists in the Philippines. Siguro mga 30 national artists meron kami sa Bulacan. So wala kaming, ibig sabihin yung karanasan na ito ng mga Bulakenyo, ng mga artista na ito, ang pinaghahalawan namin ng mga dula. Iyon yung 15 years na yon nung nasa Bulacan ako, yun ang ginagawa ng aking opisina at katuwang ang Baraswain Kalinangan Foundation. And mind you, ang Baraswain Kalinangan Foundation ay naging resident theater company ng probinsya. Kaya siya ay talagang may mandato para itanghal ang mga dula tungkol sa mga heroes and artists of Bulacan. At hindi lang yun basta mandato, no? It's being supported. May pondo para ipalabas ito. Tapos ang mga manonood ang mga kabataan sa buong Bulacan talagang binabas-in yun papunta sa provincial capital para panoorin yung mga dula. Iyon ang naging magandang karanasan ko sa gobyerno at ng private sector ng Baraswain Kalinangan. Ito yung talagang malinaw na tulungan ng cultural ng gobyerno sa cultural movement sa buong probinsya. So, iyon siguro yung pwedeng mahalawan ng academy sa karanasan kong iyon sa probinsya. sa pakikipag-ugnayan ng probinsya sa mga grupong pansining sa iba't ibang lalawigan, sa iba't ibang bayan. Ngayon, noong 2010, when I entered public service again sa Malolos, sa city of Malolos, isang bayan yan sa Bulacan, no? So from province, ako'y lumipat sa isang syudad, the capital of Bulacan, no? Malolos. At dito naman sa Malolos, ang naging programa namin ay parang revival of historical legacy ng Malolos, no? Iyan ang naging centerpiece ng aking ginagawa dito sa Malolos. That's why we developed this festival, yung Fiesta Republica. By the way, nung nasa probinsya ako ay we did not invent it, no? How do you call this? Hindi naman namin inimbento yung Singkaban Fiesta, no? Singkaban means ay sining at kalinangan ng Bulacan. So it's a festival na coming from, kumbaga dati kasi Linggo ng Bulacan ang tawag doon. But simply because nung napalitan yung pangalan, kasi nakita namin bakit lahat ng festival merong kanya-kanyang title. May dinagyang, may sinulog. Ba't ang Bulacan wala? So ginawa namin yung Singkaban. Ginawa namin Singkaban Fiesta. No. Ayun, anyway, yun yung isang, yung festival na yun ang isa sa mga na-contribute ng Bulacan sa buong pagsulong ng turismo sa buong Pilipinas. Nang lumipat ako ng Malolos noong 2010, ito yung ginawa namin. Yung karanasan ko sa Bulacan ay dito ko isinali naman sa Malolos, sa city of Malolos. So this is how it is. Okay, slides please. Tiningnan namin yung vision ng city, no? Talagang ang lungsod ng Malolos ay isang historical city. So ang vision namin diyan ay maging Philippines premier historical city ang Malolos, no? So of course, in order to do this and to realize this, we have to put our mission in the promotion of arts, culture, and youth and sports. Okay, next please. Next slide please. Yan. Ito talaga yung vision. Ito yung vision ng Malolos na sinusundan namin. Malolos, the cradle of democracy, sanctuary of excellent artists, paradise of golden heritage, the Renaissance city of the Philippines. The Renaissance city kasi ang tingin namin sa Malolos dapat maganap ang mga pagbabagong anyo, no, ng mga tao. Parang enlightenment. Dito kumbaga ito yung period na 'yon, no. Okay? Next slide, please. Yan, that's why we are called the cradle of democracy. Kasi dito sa Malolos, naganap ang Malolos Congress. Di ba? September 15. Malapit na po yung anniversary noon. Then, the first Philippine Republic was also founded here in Malolos noong January 23, 1898. Yan. So yan po yung mga old pictures ng Congress and the First Philippine Republic. Next slide, please. And being the sanctuary of excellent artists, napakadami pong artists dito sa Malolos. Dito sa Bulacan, actually sa Bulacan, napakadaming visual artists. Taga rito po si Guillermo Tolentino yung gumawa ng monumento sa Caloocan at yung oblation sa UP. Nandito ang taga rito ang mga Malolos, women of Malolos, no? Nandito ang sining Bulaqueño, ang mga folk dancers. Taga rito kasi si Francisca Reyes Aquino, no, the national artist for dance. Si Francisco Balagtas, kaya meron kaming tribute sa kanya na Awit ni Francis B. ang title, no. Lahat ng play na ito ay pinalabas namin nung nasa probinsya ako. Kaya yung time na yon, every year may bago kaming artist na pinipresent para sa mga kabataan, para sa mga estudyante na natututunan nila ng mga malulenyo pala, na mga artista pala ay talagang ay galing sa Bulacan. Okay, next slide please. Of course, the Tatlong Maria. And yeah, Malolos, the Paradise of Golden Heritage. Napakadami pong mga old structures sa Malolos. Even, I don't know if better than vegan yung mga structures na architecturally, kasi iba-ibang klase ng mga bahay dito. Ito pong yung nakikita nyo sa baba, yan ay bahay ni Dr. Santos. Ang ceiling niyan ay may painting ni Amor Solo na nasa wall, na nasa ceiling. No? Okay, next. Of course, the Baraswing Church. Ito yung mga old structures pa, mga bahay doon sa loob sa Kabayanan, no? Dito yung bahay ng mga women of Malolos, yung nasa left, going left. Okay, next. Ito yung ganito namin ni-layout ang aming mission. So, promotion of history and heritage, propagation of arts and culture, development of tourism industry, promotion of culture of excellence. Lahat na yan ay ginawa na namin sa probinsya. Ito ay ina-apply na lang namin sa Malolos. Next. Of course, to realize the mission, we have to lay down the objectives. To promote historical awareness, to preserve cultural heritage and tradition, to develop homegrown artists, to propel an industry of creative endeavors, to promote cultural and heritage tourism, to develop tourism as an economic activity, and to promote pride of place, no? And to instill in patriotism and excellence. Actually, lahat na ito ay ginagawa namin sa probinsya. Okay, next. And we develop a slogan. Vamos a Malolos, live history and make history. Which means, let's go to Malolos, let's live history, and let's make history. Next. Ayan, ang branding namin. Malolos, the Renaissance City of the Philippines. Okay. Next. And we strategize those plans by doing proactive implementation of various cultural and tourism program, promotion and marketing of the city of Malolos in the local and international arena, inclusive cultural projects that appeal to millennials, sexifying activities. Kasi yung mga, minsan ang cultural work ay masyadong outdated. Siguro parang hindi na siya nag-a-appeal sa millennial, no? Minsan kasi kailangan din natin sexify yung mga activities natin na mag-e-enjoy sila doon sa ginagawa natin. Okay, next. Ayan, historical and heritage promotion. Those are the programs. Arts and cultural development, tourism industry promotion. Next. Okay, the programs. Ito na yun, historical heritage promotion. We did the cultural mapping, profiling, historical study tour. Regular ginagawa namin to. Revival of cultural traditions, research documentation and publications, commemorative rights and heroes day. Gumagawa kami ng mga libro ng mga heroes, ng mga artists. Okay, next. Arts and culture development. We have art seminars and workshop every summer, arts exhibition and competition every January, cultural festivals. No, meron kaming ani ng sining pag February, pista ng pamanang sining pag October, parangal sa Kongreso pag September, Pistang Pasko sa Malolos pag December, at Fiesta Republica ng January. Fiesta Republica, ito yung pinaka-centerpiece ng aking cultural and tourism work. That's the Festival of Philippine History. Okay, our tourism industry promotion, ito yun, promotions and marketing. So we have tourism booth, expo, and travel mart. May in Trimedia, in social media, may website, may audiovisual presentation, brochures and apps. Mayroon kaming established na tourism season sa Malolos from August to January. Medyo weird yung period, no? Pero yung August to January, yun yung panahon ng dinaos ang Malolos Congress sa Malolos. Nung dumating ang mga delegado ni Aguinaldo at binuo ang unang konstitusyon ng Republika ng Pilipinas. Vamos a Malolos. So, ginawa namin tourism season yung period na yun. So, these are the tour packages we developed. No? May Dula Saysayan, Lakbay Kasaysayan, Baybay Ilog, Lakbay Semana Santa, Holy Week, may Lakbay Pamana Heritage Tour. Actually, ang maganda dito yung Dula Saysayan. Dula Saysayan Historical Theater Tour. Kasi yung mga turista nakikita nila sa mga old houses, yung mga nagaganap na mga historical events doon sa lugar na yon, sa mga old houses na yon. At in costumes yun, talagang theatrical theatrical presentation yung napapanood nila. Okay? Sige, next please. Ayan ang mga infrastructure development na ginagawa namin. Yung Heritage City Development Master Plan, meron kaming conservation of heritage houses, construction of tourism roads and facilities, construction of museums and galleries, tourism info and souvenir centers booth, cleaning of rivers and tree planting, construction of parks and recreation. Actually, lahat na ito ginagawa, sabay-sabay. Hanggang sa nag-retire ako, tuloy pa rin yan. Hanggang ngayon, ginagawa pa rin yung bagong City Hall. No? Yung park, yung ganun. Okay. At yung mga bahay ay talagang binibili namin, yung mga old houses. Binadgetan namin yun. Binabudgetan namin every year para maka-acquire kami ng bahay. Ng old houses na talagang, actually, nagbidelikado na yung mga bahay, pinagbibili kasi nila eh. So, kailangan ma-save namin yung mga old structures na yun. Okay, next. So ito yung mga legislations. Kasi hindi naman mangyayari lahat na ito kung hindi legislated. So may creation kami ng Arts and Culture, Tourism, Youth and Sports Office. Meron ng opisina yan sa Malolos. Ang Fiesta Republica, yung aking festival ng about history of the Philippines, ay meron ng isang bill, yung PB 533, Araw ng Republikang Pilipino 1898. Naging na yan, sinabatas na. Pero talagang trinabaho namin yan. Tourism Code of the City of Malolos, Declaration of Malolos as History Center. Actually, ang Malolos ay dineclare ng National Historical Commission na History Center ng Pilipinas. No? Kailangan lang namin itong talagang pangalagaan at ipaalam sa buong Pilipino, sa buong Pilipinas na ang Malolos ay isang lugar na makasaysayan at kailangang puntahan para may matutunan. Creation of Heritage Administration Board. Meron na kaming ginawang Heritage Administration Board na lahat ng bagay, lahat ng bahay na gigibain ay dumadaan dito. Pwede bang gibain yan o hindi? Meron parang intramuros administration, ganon. May Local Heritage Protection Law na ipinasa na. Creation of Local Tourism Council. Creation of Arts and Culture Council. Okay, next please. Ito yung mga projects na ginawa namin. Yung Fiesta Republica nga, yung Festival of Philippine Theater, Philippine Theater. Festival of Philippine History, January 23. Dulansangan. Yung Dulansangan is part of Fiesta Republica. Ito yung ang pinaka bonggang activity, dulansangan. Kasi itong dulansangan ay street theater festival to. Talagang sa kalye, hindi lang basta sumasayaw yung mga artista, yung mga dancers. Sumasayaw sila in a theatrical form na kinikwento nila sa kalye kung ano ang kasaysayan ng kanilang bayan. At yung dulansangan, it's a national competition. So, maski Bacolod, taga Negros, sumasali diyan sa dulansangan. Sa Mountain Province, taga Tadyang, anong bayan yan? Marami ng mga probinsya ang sumasali sa dulansangan, pero showcasing their own local history, hindi ang history ng Malolos. Hindi history ng kanilang probinsya. Okay. Then we have this Vamos a Malolos. It's a tourism promotion program of the history of the program of historical Anyway, Dula Saysay, yun na kinento kanina, theatrical experience of Malolos history and culture. So pagka ikaw ay turista at inavail mo yung package na yon, yung Dula Saysayan, para kang walk through history ka sa Malolos, no? From yung pageantry ng Malolos Congress, yung pagpasok ng mga bayani sa Malolos hanggang sa pagtatatag ng unang republika ng Pilipinas. Ayan. Then we have this Pamanang Malolos, a preservation program of the cultural heritage of the property of the city. Meron kaming kalutong Malolos, may mga ganun kami, so may culinary festival kami na ginagawa. Okay? Okay, next. Yes. Vamos sa Malolos. So, go to Malolos, live history, and make history. Okay, yun lang po ang aking presentation ngayon kung may mga katanungan. Ngayon, yung tungkol po sa Academy, ay ang tingin po namin dyan ay kailangan regionalized pa. Regionalize ang mga studies. Kumbaga, pagka nasa Visayas, ang mga taga Visayas, pag-aaralan din nila yung kultura ng Kabisayaan. Pero although talaga pinag-aaralan natin ang buong Pilipinas, pero yung merong local color na pinag-aaralan yung sa Academy. Okay, so
Maraming salamat. Kuya, maraming salamat po. Saludo po sa inyo. Sa inyong nakakapataba ng puso ng mga karanasan. No? Narinig po namin na buhay ang mga nananalaytay na dugo ng mga bayani sa mga Bulakenyo. Sa inyo pong mga kwento na hindi po pwedeng bumaba ang standard. Dahil po 30 na pong bayani ang galing ng Bulacan. Ay hindi po pwedeng wala ng bayani, no? So kayo po ay yung mga bagong bayani, no, na talagang buhay na buhay. Hindi po patay ang bayani sa Bulacan, buhay po sila. Ngayon po talagang binubuhay kahit yung patay sa kanilang mga kwento, sa teatro, sa kanilang nasa tourism, nasa libro, nasa bill, nasa laws, nasa constitution nila, sa kanilang vision. Napakaganda po. I think sa isang katulad nating nasa governance, kung ganito kataas ang vision at ang mission, walang bababang standard. Kumbaga sa vision pa lang, no, you have already that kind of the kind of heroic, no, na standards natin, yung benchmark pa lang, no. So para po sa amin, isang malaking karangalan po na matuto sa inyong best practices po sa Luzon, at isa po ito ang Bulacan, na personal ko po na nasaksihan, no, ang ibang mga ginagawa ng Barasoin Kalinangan, at ito po ay hindi ko po makakalimutan. Isa pong magandang mensahe sa amin, to live history and make history. And this is to learn from you what is the Luzon expertise, Mabuhay po kayo for your 50 years po. Heritage na po kayo, kuya. You are such a, yung lahat po ng ginagawa ninyo, kaya deserving po lahat ng inyong mga napanalunang mga awards. Papugay po sa inyong lahat. Mahirap pong tapatan, pero po, sige po, we'll try our best to learn from you and also how to produce new heroes po and to continue this kind of sense of pride in our communities, no? How to replicate your highest consciousness in governance. Bayan ng mga bayani, pagpatuloy po namin, dahil dati po sa libro lang po namin yan, binabasa. Ngayon po, napapanood ng mga bata, napaka-importante po ng ginagawa ninyo, napapanood po nila na nabubuhay po yung mga bayani, hindi lang po nasa libro. No? So, isang bagong anyo, no? Enlightenment, sabi nyo, place of excellence, place of heroes, paradise of golden heritage. Napakaganda pong alaala at baon namin, no? Kailangan natin ng ganito kagaling na mga visionary sa gobyerno. So hanggang sa muli po, maraming salamat at mabuhay po ang magagaling na heroes bayani sa Bulacan. Maraming salamat po, Kuya Arman. Ngayon po, dadako naman tayo sa napakagandang isla sa Visayas. Ito naman ay ang BUJOL, no? Ang ating pinakamamahal namang BOHOL. And we have with us our third speaker, one of the prime movers of BOHOL. Our third speaker is Miss Emilia Roslinda, the former Executive Director of Process BOHOL and former Chair of the Board of Trustees of Bangon and founding Chair of BUSWACC. After retirement, she is now connected with the provincial government of Bohol as Executive Assistant for Culture, Arts, and Development. She is currently the Executive Director of Bohol Arts and Cultural Heritage Council and the coordinator of the Bohol School of Living Tradition. She is behind the Abatan River Main Village Center, where cultural shows were performed, and currently the Secretary of Abatan River Development Management Council. She was also a member of various Region 7 Regional Development Council committees, including the Special Committee on Culture, Arts, and Design. She received several awards and recognitions, including the President Carlos P. Garcia Award for Social Development and semi-finalist of the 7th Ramon Aboitiz Foundation Incorporated Triennial Awards. A resource person, organizer, implementer, facilitator, evaluator, consultant, and participant of various local, national, and international programs and projects of government and non-government organizations, particularly on arts, culture, and heritage, gender, reproductive health, organizational development, women and children, environment, and values formation. Palakpakan po natin si Miss Emmy Roslinda.
Hello po. Mayong hapon, maayong hapon, good afternoon. My presentation basically is about building sustainable communities through community theater and local culture. So, paano namin ginawa ang mga cultural collectives namin in partnership with various sectors, no? Next, please. Ito yung outline ng presentation ko. One is the context. Ano ba yung Abatan River and its biodiversity? Tapos, merong konting part about the provincial government of Bohol and the Abatan River Development Management Council, yung NGO na pinanggalingan ko, ang Process Bohol. Tapos, ano yung role ng Abatan Main Village Center, no? And yung mga programs in Abatan with regards to community theater and eco-culture tourism, and ano-ano yung mga ideas for the community of Philippine theater. Next, please. So, ano ba yung context behind the Abatan River Eco-Cultural Development Program? Next. Ito yung Abatan River. Siguro halos lahat sa inyo, si Roslinda, nakita mo na to, di ba? And most of the NCCA, no? So ang Abatan River is the third largest river in the province of Bohol, and ito din yung third largest watershed. So ang river is the main tributary. So next please. Ito is endued with a lot of natural beauty of nature, lalo na sa mga waterfalls and our icon, the tarsier. So very rich in terms of biodiversity. Next. And as in richness of biodiversity, we regularly, in my time sa process as a former executive director, we regularly do a survey about the richness in our biodiversity. So in our latest survey, we found out that there are 273 different species of plants. And sa mangrove naman, we have 35 mangroves in 15 families, which calls the Abatan River and its tertiary or the Maribohok Bay as one of the diverse mangrove ecosystem in the country, not only in the province but in the country, no? 35 mangroves and 15 families. Next, please. And ito yung mga endangered and rare species na nakita namin sa Abatan River during our survey, no? Yung firefly, which is ginawa na namin itong attraction. This is one of the rare firefly species, the endemic Pteroptex, and it is only found in Abatan River. And of course, you're familiar with Philippine tarsier and the giant golden crown fruit bat. Nasa Abatan lahat yan. Kung pupunta kayo ngayon, makikita nyo yan. Next, please. So, nasabi ko na yan that we have a very rich mangrove ecosystem in the country. Next, please. Aside from that, we have a very colorful, rich, and unique historical and cultural heritage. No? So, sabi nga, when you take a cruise along Abatan River, according to the local historian, you will be retracing the path traveled by our Boholano ancestors. No? So, isa na dyan, si Tamplot. Next, please. So, ito yung mga municipalities covered by the Abatan watershed. All in all, 13 municipalities, no? And ang focus ng cultural groups namin dito lang sa Loon, Antiquera, Maribohok, Cortes, Balilihan, Katigbian, although we expanded in other municipalities. Next, please. So kung titingnan nyo, bakit Abatan? So, if you remember, in early 2000, Bohol is belongs to sinasabi nilang Club 20, Poorest of the Poor. And in 2004, merong program, Bohol Convergence Support Initiative. Dito talaga nag-start yung multi-sectoral partnership, no, between the local government, the communities, the private sector, to address the issue on poverty. So, nag-umpisa sa 5 towns, and ang Abatan River served as the natural divide of the 5 focus towns of the Abatan River Development Management Council. So, it serves as the unifying unit. Next, please. So, ito yon, no? Ang mga municipalities ng covered ng Abatan River Development Management, ang Antiquera, Maribohok, Katigbian, Balilihan, Cortes. And this river serves as the natural divide. Although sinabi ko na earlier that ang Abatan watershed is composed of 13 municipalities. Next, please. So, to address the poverty, developed through the facilitation of Process Bohol, we developed the Abatan River Ecotourism Program aimed at poverty alleviation, and to give mandate to it, the governor during the time created a council. We call it Abatan River Development Management Council through an executive order. Actually, this program is a brainchild of the then governor, Attorney Edgar M. Chato, now the congressman of the 1st District of Bohol. So this is managed by Process Bohol, being there since early 90s, no? And our first launch of the program was in May 20, 2006. And mas napalakas pa ang ecotourism program because of the law, Republic Act 9446, declaring the province of Bohol as an eco-cultural tourism zone. That was in 2007. Next, please. So why Process? Process is a social development NGO where I work in that NGO since it started in 1985. And I retired in 2018, no? So I was there for 33 years. And ito yung nag-pioneer talaga ng community-based ecotourism and cultural and arts program in the province, no? So we've been a long partner of NCCA, implementing culture and arts program. For example, one of which is BUCAG, no? Next, please. So, ano itong Abatan Main Village Center? It is an eco-culture tourism program with Eco Museum. Next. So, ano ba yung Eco Museum? Because we envision Abatan River as a living eco museum, a museum without walls. So, it's an open access museum focusing with emphasis on the link with history, landscape, natural resources, and agricultural practices with active participation of local communities. So, with emphasis talaga sa local communities ang initiatives natin sa Abatan. Next, please. So, ang main entrance natin is the main village center, which serves as the receiving and information center. And ito din ang ginagawa natin ngayon na cultural performance hub, no? So it's just along the highway. Next, please. Next, please. So as a performance space, dito nangyayari ang mga cultural performances ng local talent. So siguro napanood niyo yung iba-ibang mga performances. And one of which is, next please, yung Likha Asia Cultural Show, where there are performances from Indonesia and Thailand who perform during in Abatan River. And also, this is where the Jaka sa Abatan, also Bukagto, was performed. And other cultural performances. Next, please, with the natural background, ang mangrove, no? And talking about community theater and cultural development program in Abatan, in 2010 to 2013, yun yung Lihok Bisaya. And tapos sinundan to ng Bahandi or Bukag program, Phase 1 in 2015 to 2017. And from 2018 until now, tinatapos na namin yung Phase 2, yung sa Bukag. Next, please. So, ano ba itong Bukag? Bakit Bukag? No? Actually, Bukag has a multiple use, no? Kung farmers ka, ito yung nilalagyan ng mga root crops and other agricultural products na dinadala sa market, no? And gawa ito ng either rattan, pwede rin na bamboo, no? So bukag, bulanong kabilin, is a symbol of Boholano local creativity, strength, pride, and resiliency, no? It attributes and values of the Boholano that the program aims to extol, perpetuate, and revitalize towards social transformation. So although we are now in the modern age, yet bukag is really a symbol of our cultural heritage. Next, please. So bukag, meaning is bulanong kabilin atong gibahande, no? It's a community-based eco-cultural development program which aims to develop sustainable and creative Boholano communities anchored and drawing from Bohol's rich ecological and cultural heritage, creating appreciation and awareness of its significance, and utilizing for enhancing quality of life through community-based creative industries. So our main development concept is anchored on the SIAD approach, no, or Sustainable Integrated Area Development Approach. Next, please. So, ano-ano yung mga goals namin? One is on protection of and deeper appreciation of ecological and cultural heritage. So, partner talaga yung dalawang yan. Creativity and innovative artistry inspired by cultural traditions. Growth of community-based creative industries as potential source of revenues. And lastly, strengthening community solidarity and collaboration. Next. Please. So ano ba yung scope ng namin ng program? Actually 4 towns lang to, mali yung figure, no? Sa phase 1 ng Bukag, we covered 4 towns along Abatan River and 3 towns outside the Abatan River. Although Loon is part of the Abatan watershed, pero malayo siya sa river. So we have Antiquera Cultural Collective, Balilihan, Cortes, and Maribo Cultural Collective. Loon outside the river is Loon Cultural Collective, Baclayot Cultural Collective, and Tagbilaran CP Bukag Program. Next, please. So ano-ano yung mga nagawang mga program along the Bukag program, no? Unang-una, because we are very much giving emphasis on community, we need to have a very good social preparation. Then after that, series of arts-based value formation workshops were done for women, youth, and adult leaders. And then training of trainers in culture-based disaster risk reduction, especially that we have experienced the talaga na earthquake in 2013. Tapos we have an on-site, after the training of trainers, we did the on-site eco workshops in the pilot sites of 7 municipalities. And then part of the youth activity is the youth camp, heritage youth camp, which we locally call it BOHOL. It was participated by around 300 youth, no, from the 7 municipalities. Then we also did a creativity workshop rooted on Boholano culture. And next to that is we trained the communities on creative industries, and then launching Festival of the Creativity and Creative Industries. Next, please. So each of the modules has a series of, it is sa sinabi ko, it has a module content. We have planned syllabus, the lecture, seminar, workshops, and then we have a permanent facilitators to really to have a continuity of activities, and of course constant follow-up of participants, no? Isang from training 1 to the end of the dapat sila lang para grabe ang training and yung learning na mangyayari. Although we open, but the core should be there. Next, please. So ito yung mga outputs, no, ng workshops ng 7 municipalities na talagang na-realize, no? These are called heritage tourism maps and production of cultural collectives on site with pilot audiences. So ito yung nagiging guide and direction ng pilot municipalities in achieving their goals of BUCAC. Next, please. So after that, meron nag-phase 2 na agad, no? So from 2018 to 2020. Ano-ano naman yung mga activities dito? Kasi yung phase 1 is more on launching, no? So sa phase 2, next please. Yun pa rin ang, of course, kasi phase 2, so it's a continuation. So yun pa rin yung aims, yung objectives, at saka yung concept na ginamit namin. Next, please. And yun pa rin yung goals. Next. And from the 7 municipalities, we expanded to 3 more towns. So making it a total of 10 towns. If you notice, first phase of the 5 municipalities, kulang yung Katigbian. So nasa phase 2 siya, and on top of that, yung Albuquerque, which is also known for its very beautiful retablos and altar, and the Taoist cultural collectives, which are really very rich in cultural heritage. Next, please. So again, the same process ang ginawa namin sa bagong additional 3 towns. Next, please. Next, please. And so ito yon. Sa phase 2, after the ginawa namin yung organizational strengthening ng mga communities, we did strategic planning and organizational planning for legal status. So most of the communities or the cultural collectives na nabuo, we facilitated na ma-register talaga siya sa Department of Labor or sa DOLE for them to have a legal personality. No? And then after that, we enhanced their product and we did the product enhancement and development workshop, no? Based on the launch program sa phase 1, and then level upscaling the training in promotions, marketing, audience development, and value chain analysis. Unfortunately, we're about to pilot test when this pandemic nangyari, no, happens. So, and because of that, ang ginawa namin, kinonverse yung transfer yung pilot testing into ng final performances sana into digital virtual technology, no? So, para yung mga performances ng collectives, ma-live stream na siya. So, ongoing ngayon yung video shooting ng mga cultural performance face-to-face na pilot testing through virtual live streaming na ang mangyayari. Okay, next please. Kasi unstable na naman yung internet ko. Wala yan. Next please. So, sa mga questions na binato sa atin, question number 1, based on the context, praxis, and pedagogy, how can this contribute to the shaping of the Academy of the Philippine Theater? One is, as a mix of theory and practice, yung pedagogy and aesthetic, no? Theory and practice of community theater and building of community theater network. Sana mangyayari ito. And then, makakontribute ito, no? Pedagogy and organizational pedagogy and development of provincial arts councils, no? For so long, medyo naglal yung BOHOL Arts and Cultural Heritage Council. Sa ngayon, we're very, very much thankful na nabuo ito, of which ito yung lingkod ang nagiging executive director, and yung chair namin is a priest, no? Which is also very active in cultural activities. Another is aesthetic and pedagogy praxis in repertory theater development, no? So, like the Kasing group, which is founded by Gardi, and the pedagogy in cultural research, like cultural mapping and historical studies, no? To inform about the cultural heritage and history of Bohol. And for that, we did development planning in governance, tourism and education, artistic creation, development, and creative industries. Next, please. For question number 2, what should be the content and methodology? What we would suggest is it should offer the best of Philippine theater history and Philippine theater theory, no? And praxis to be offered from various regional centers of Philippine performance, organizing, and curriculum development. And then it should have a balance of academic and conservatory theater. Yun yung discipline-based, and sa professional naman, industry-based, and people's theater, practice outside the city-based theater development. So, kaya ang ginawa namin, on top, outside the city yung focus, no? Although kasama pa rin yung city. And an array of course programs from short-term certificate courses to comprehensive degree courses, no? Sana. And as aesthetic and pedagogy that will enhance, enrich, realize a vision and mission of Philippine theater in the current age to be articulated by the current membership of the Philippine theater community. No? It is a theater that will convey, reflect the needs and aspirations and values of the contemporary Filipino, no? Which is concerned with truth-telling, anchored on ecological and cultural heritage, innovative and self-reflexive, critical, collaborative, inclusive, and provocative in dramaturgy and spirit. More on question number 2, responses. Next, please. On the methodology, based on what we have tried that is very, very much effective, it should be consultative, participative, and inclusive, and collaborative, multi-center geographically and content-wise, integrates participatory cultural research methodologies, has solid foundation in academic curricula, combination in theater, theory building, skills building, and actual field work or residencies in areas for theater development, led by a multifaceted, multidisciplined artists, teachers, leaders, or faculty, and provide access and relevant career opportunities to creative industries. Next, please. 2 more slides. Next, please. So number 3, Sa question number 3, yes. Bohol in the... sorry. Last na ni. Bohol in the past 2 years has been involved in the planning of the programs with possible structure. So we have this BAC Institute, the Regional Cultural Hub of Central Visayas. If these two materialize, will materialize, Bohol, if selected to be one of the regional centers of the Academy of the Philippine Theater, can very well offer to be a structural base for it. So, next, please. So, ito yung ginagawa naming school ngayon ng DILT. Next, please. Yung Holy Spirit School. Next, please. And the Cultural Hub. This was already presented to NCCA. And next, please. Kasi pinasara na rin kami dito sa and ito yung possible structure, no? May National Theater Community, Board of Advisors and Directors, Regional Centers on the below. And let me end, next please, my presentation with a short video of what we're doing in Bohol, which is a joint efforts of a multi-sectoral group, the community, the LGU, and the NGOs, no, the private sector. So if you allow, it's only a 3-minute video, and thank you very much.
Nagsimula ito lahat sa isang parang pangarap lang. Paano kaya natin magagawa na ang mga Boholano ay kumikita na sila pero napapakita nila kung anong meron sila. Hindi yung kailangan pang gumawa pa ng bago. Dapat mapakita natin kung ano ang Bohol, hindi lang dahil sa lugar, kundi dahil sa tao. Ang ibang pwedeng puntahan ng mga turista dito sa Bohol na bukod sa may Chocolate Hills sa Lobok River. Siyempre ang mga tao. At ang mga tao palagi nagbabago.
Culture and Heritage Hub, which would like to be mainstream to the ecotourism destination in the province of Bohol, being Bohol positioning itself as an ecotourism destination. So the tourists will not only come here for the traditional Chocolate Hills, Panglao, and Lobok, but if you tour around Bohol, they have a lot to see. And we would like the community to be part of the tourism industry in the province to have a real inclusivity of economic growth. Culture and heritage that the Boholanos are very proud of. We can also be very proud to let them or to show them what we have and what we are being a Boholano.
Siguro mas magandang ilagay siya sa Pag-iisip na parang kung gusto mo talaga makita yung kultura ng isang lugar, kausapin mo yung tao, makipag-interact ka sa kanila, alamin mo kung ano yung tradisyon nila.
Daghang salamat, Ate Emmy. Daghang salamat, gikan sa Bohol. Napakuradang mo kami, Ate Emmy. Ang ganda-ganda ng inyong kuradang na yan. Kailangan ma-experience namin yung mga kuradang. At ang ganda-ganda mo pa rin, Ate Emmy.
Yes.
Ang ganda mo pa rin. At thank you po for making me experience po again, no, yung inyo pong binahagi para po binalik nyo kami uli doon, dinala nyo kami doon sa napakagandang ilog ninyo, no? Napakagandang river. Bohol rivers are one of the most beautiful rivers in the Philippines. For bringing us back those beautiful memories po, fireflies, songs, food, theater, community. Yung Likha Asya was one of the most beautiful stage backdrop, yung river. It's one of the most beautiful experience of a community theater for me in the Philippines. I think it's one of the heights of community theater. And experiencing the process Bohol, really bringing people around and experiencing the community, yung mga bata ng mga fishermen, yun yung nag-acting doon sa ninyo, presentation na talagang buhay nila, yung isinasabuhay nila. Napakaganda po. At I think yung panalo po sa inyong sharing ay yung inyong pedagogy at inyong pong mga methods, yung methodology ninyo. Panalo po, galing po sa isang napakayaman mong experience from being an NGO practitioner. So you have a very strong backing po and experience in the community, at the same time bringing it into the context of governance. So that I think that is really a win-win situation. No? So the province of Bohol po is very lucky to have you and bringing your expertise into the governance, into the government. So I think this is already a proven and tested, no, na benchmark ninyo in integrating community governance, theory and practice, building community, no, making pedagogy and cultural research, pedagogy and aesthetics of community theater. So yung sinasabi niyo po kanina na ito pa yung ma-offer ninyo, no, isang if you're going to be a regional hub, I think it's going to be the most beautiful place for a regional hub for theater, but also looking at biodiversity, being one of the center of biodiversity, rich biodiversity in the Philippines. I think that already is a come on. And having a very rich culture, I think that's also another come on. And sinasabi nyo nga po kanina na yung values ng Boholano, which you incorporated in Bukag, no, napakaganda pong framework noon. And something for us to learn, as you were saying, napaka-importante ng social preparation, napaka-importante nung sinasabi niyong arts-based value formation, no? At kasabay din yung disaster risk management reduction, no? Kasi may mga earthquake tayo at may mga, ang ganda po ng ganitong na isama rin ito dahil nga we are a country of disasters. No, creative industry, napakalakas po ng inyong practice po dyan sa Bohol. So, I think po sa mga nabanggit niyo po kanina, nakasama na po yung methodology, na consultative po dapat, participative, inclusive, at collaborative. No, I think ito po yung magsasabuhay ng ating community ng theater practice natin, no, na gusto nating i-ambag sa Academy of Philippine Theater, no? Multidisciplinary yung mga artists, no, and collaborative po. And I think na nagkaroon kayo ng ganitong, you have so much to offer in terms of your own practice in Bohol with your BAC Institute of Living Traditions, no? Mukhang handang-handa na po at pinaghahandaan. Of course, we will always be indebted to Bohol and will always be appreciative of the work that you're doing there. Mabuhay po kayong lahat at more power po sa inyong ginagawa sa Bohol. Daghang salamat for the next cultural hub of the Academy of Philippine Theater. Maraming salamat po. Ngayon naman po, dadako tayo sa isa ring napakagandang isla at we'll experience naman, we'll learn from another best practice from Calbayog City. So I'd like to introduce to you our next speaker. So our next speaker is Jonas T. Lim, who currently serves as City Government Department Head of the City Arts and Culture Office, or CACO, of Calbayog City, a position he has held since 1996. He is also CACO's Artistic Director since 1996. From 2001, he has also been the Executive Director of the Escolar Calbayog and the Chairmaster of Escolar Calbayog Chorus, which was a NAMSHA 2015 finalist. Jonas Lim has also served as the Festival Director of Hadang, the SAMAR Island Cultural Tourism Festival, the Director of Alferez Victoy Musical, an official entry to the International Theater Festival at 98 at CIS Cultural Center of the Philippines, and the Director of Bilingan, a dance musical official entry to Sambayan 2000, and Ikatlong Tagpo National Theater Festival, also at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. He received the Outstanding Calbayugnon Award in 2019 and the Outstanding CKC Alumnus for Theater and the Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jonas Lim.
Maupay nga kulok, thank you very much. Greetings from the people of Calbayog, the Calbayugnons, and the scholars and employees of the City Arts and Culture Office. I will not be presenting all the programs of CACO, but only the important things or praxis, cultural praxis that might help the establishment of the Theater Arts Academy. Next slide, please. I would like to start my presentation by introducing a Binisaya word, Lara, which refers to mat weaving. Lara is hobby in Filipino, which is the developmental theme of Sabadulaan. Next slide, please. Lara. Why Lara? Because I envision Theater Academy or an Arts Academy as a leadership academy revolutionizing the arts. Next, please. Why Leadership Academy? Because governance is all about leadership. Because development is all about leadership. And I mean good leadership. For many observers of good democratic governance and the rule of law, previous experiences and recent developments in the Philippines have been discouraging. Filipinos are suffering from the never-ending wicked activities of politicians and government officials, magnified by the diminishing accountability of government to its people. Much has been said about good governance. We know the definition. It's sensationalized, rationalized, and parroted during seminars attended by the great minds, and yet the government is failing. Our leaders were graduates from the best universities in the country and abroad, and yet corruption is unshamedly thriving. Next, please. In this troubling context, we need an academy of leaders which is culture-centered and values-oriented. An academy that will produce the best leaders for the country, nurtured by discipline, integrity, honesty, sincerity, respect, and public service at the apex, with only the well-being of the Filipino people in mind. We have good leaders, but unfortunately, not in the political arena or the government. Sorry for the voice. But in the private sector, non-government organizations serving the community at its best. And I call them artists, cultural workers, and cultural leaders. Imagine a Philippines led by Tata Nanding, Gandhi Labat, Nestor Hardin, Brenda Fajardo, Cecil Guidote Alvarez, Steve Fernandez, and all the big cheese in culture and art sector. The best, I suppose, for the nation. Ang ganda siguro ng Pilipinas. I salute these cultural leaders. I admire them because they have the whiter and white intentions of helping the nation and the Filipinos. Pero bakit po hindi sila naging mayors? Bakit hindi sila naging governors, congressmen, senators, presidente kaya? Sa totoo lang, mabuti pa ang sektor Ibang sektor may party list. Kahit ang iba hindi totoo. Ang sining at kultura, wala. Ito ay importante daw tayo. At totoo, importante ang sining at kultura. Next, please. With the increasing challenges in democratic spaces and values around the country, can the cultural community still claim its space in nation building? This must be the question that must guide us in the discussion processes in trying to establish a Philippine Theater Academy. Reality check, kaunti na po tayo, or kaunti lang tayo. Kailangan natin maparami. Kailangan na rin nating mapakinggan ng gobyerno. Sabi nga ni Tata Nanding in one of his posts in FB, if I may quote him, as long as the arts and culture are not recognized as essential for shaping the human being and the society we live in, we will continue to be confronted with the age-old problems of the world. This is a red flag. We need to do something. And I strongly believe that the arts and culture sector can reinvigorate and influence the quality of politics and governance in the Philippines. Next, please. So, if we will establish a Philippine Theater Academy, or Arts Academy for that matter, my unsolicited and unassuming suggestion is that it must be a culture-centered leadership academy. Next, please. Because we believe that effective governance involves not only programs for poverty alleviation and economic infrastructures, but likewise, a strengthened social infrastructure through an effective human resource development program. Man is one of the potent factors in development and effective governance. We need to invest in social infrastructure. Next, please. That is why, if I may share our cultural praxis, the local government of Calbayog indubitably invested in establishing the Scholar Calbayog Scholarship Program for all college students, as initiated by the City Arts and Culture Office in 2001, under the leadership of Mayor Mel Sarmiento. Calbayog is blessed because we have culturally oriented leaders like City Councilor and now Board Member Julius Mangkol, the late Mayor and Congressman Rinaldo S. Uy, Mayor and Congressman Melson Sarmiento and former DILG Secretary, Mayor Ronald P. Aquino, Vice Mayor Diego Rivera, and Congressman Edgar Sarmiento, godfathers of culture and arts development in the city. Scholar Calbayog is leadership, academic, cultural scholarship program given to Calbayugnons and Samareños who are poor and deserving with talent inclination to arts and culture. Scholar Calbayog, like any other established leadership organization, is culture-centered because we know the importance of culture in developing the human character. Society is equal to people. People need character. And the most decisive factor in the development of human character is culture. That is the rationale of establishing the scholarship program on top of program sustainability in culture and the arts. And of course, we want also to develop the second liners in cultural work through this scholarship program in order to sustain the gains of arts and culture in the city. Next slide, please. Allow me to share some of the major accomplishments of the scholarship program since its inception in 2001. Job placement is 98.25%. In other words, if you are a graduate of the scholarship program, you will land a job, 98.25%. Board exams passing percentage is 100%. LET, civil engineering, electrical engineering, or master electrician exams. 45 to 55% of the graduates are holding managerial positions in companies and government agencies all over the country. We were able to produce also magna cum laudes, with high honors. In cultural work or in the arts, we were finalists in the Namsha 2015 choral competition. Sambayan 2000, Ikatlong Tagpo, NTF, the Biringan Dance Musical. We attended also the Pasinaya at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Some of our theater performances will tour nationally, including the Lahub. Next slide, please. What are the benefits of the scholars? One, full scholarship since 2001. Monthly allowance, book allowance, free laptops and internet, financial assistance for graduation and thesis expenses. We conduct workshops and seminars in leadership and the arts. We have our Arts Academy, class in the ISCO Talk. We also conduct civil service review sessions and other academic sessions because we believe that a leader, in order to be effective, needs to be knowledgeable. Next slide, please. In a nutshell, we expose the grantees to the following areas of concern: leadership, academic excellence, and arts and culture. Why am I sharing this? Because I resolutely believe we can do this in the academy. This is what I envision of an arts academy. Next slide, please. A full scholarship for all qualifiers. No tuition fee. There must be monthly allowance or, better yet, salary for all scholars and students in the academy. If the government can do this in the Philippine Military Academy or the PMA and the PNPA, then why not for the Philippine Theater Academy? Lahat libre. Ang military, seguridad. Ang kultura, kapasidad. Number 3, a 3-structured program academy on leadership, academics, cultural development. Hindi pwedeng arts or culture lang. Dapat pasok ang academics, especially leadership. And number 4, establishment of the Philippine Theater Academy in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and eventually in all the regions. Next, please. With all the premises considered, the Philippine Theater Academy must be state-sponsored, managed and administered by qualified cultural leaders, not by just anybody whimsically appointed by a slipshod government. Marami tayong mga qualified leaders. Is this possible? We have faith, yes. What are the terms of reference? We have basis po. Provisions are enshrined in the 1987 Constitution. It's a constitutional mandate. I don't like to sound like a lawyer or an expert in the laws. I just want to share the constitutional mandates that help establishments of the City Arts and Culture Office. So next, please. Article 2, Declaration of Principles and State Policies, Section 17. The state shall give priority to education, science, and technology, highlighted arts and culture, foster patriotism, nationalism, accelerate social progress, and promote total human liberation and development. Next, please. Article 14, Section 14 to 18, Culture and the Arts. Allow me to cite the provisions and passing. Section 14, the state shall foster the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of a Filipino national culture based on the principle of unity and diversity in a climate of free artistic and intellectual expression. Section 15, arts and letters shall enjoy the patronage of the state. The state shall conserve, promote, and popularize the nation's historical and cultural heritage resources, as well as artistic creations. Next, please. Section 16. All the country's artistic and historic wealth constitutes the cultural treasure of the nation and shall be under the protection of the state, which may regulate its disposition. Section 17. The state shall recognize, respect, and protect the rights of indigenous cultural communities to preserve and develop their cultures, traditions, and institutions. It shall consider these rights in the formulation of the national plans and policies. Next, please. Section 18. The state shall ensure equal access to cultural opportunities through the educational system. Kaya kayang-kaya po ang establishment ng Philippine Arts Academy. So it's clear, the government can play several roles in the cultural and artistic life of a nation based on the aforementioned provisions in the Constitution. Next slide, please. So base doon, ano una? The government is a preserver of culture. The government provides the material and financial resources. Kaya sabi ko kanina, state-sponsored. to ensure the preservation of Philippine culture and history. While the private sector and academic institutions may contribute to the efforts, the government takes the lead and assumes the main responsibility for conserving and enriching the collective memory of the nation. So bakit natin iaasa sa private sector? Nasa konstitusyon naman na kailangan gobyerno. Next, please. Protection of the arts. The government ensures that the environment allows free expression of artists and cultural workers, and that the requisite resources are provided to give meaning to that free expression of artistic excellence. So hindi po tayo kailangan matakot na baka state-sponsored, kontrolin tayo. Nasa konstitusyon po ay hindi pwede. Bigyan tayo ng free expression. Next slide, please. Promoter of culture. Government uses the vast resources at its command, including the school system, media, and other media of cultural and artistic dissemination to promote the Filipino culture and the arts. Next, please. With all the foregoing constitutional mandates, in Calbayog City, we were able to establish the City Arts and Culture Office, or CACO, in 1994, at first as a division of the Mayor's Office, and eventually as one of the departments in the local government tuning, distinct and separate from the City Tourism Office. Next slide, please. At baka magkaroon ng mga cultural arts offices sa ibang lugar, I'd like to share some experiences, especially in managing cultural office in the LDLGU. I started in 1996. I was 24 then. Maraming challenges. One, you need to learn the arts. You cannot be knowledgeable only in one discipline. As head of the office, you are also the artistic director. So it's a must. I started in theater. Then later, I have to learn dance. Why? May papasok na mga empleyado na sa dance. So kailangan more or less knowledgeable ka. So I attended the workshops of Denise Reyes sa ACPC. Then, visual arts. Ang aking assistant na papasok, visual artist. So bago pa siya pumasok ng opisina, malis na ako. Nag-art appreciation workshop na ako. Then pumasok ang mga musicians sa opisina. So, kailangan ko lang mag-aral ng music and composition. I learned design. I studied video production. Nag-script writing na rin ako. Kasi may mga pumasok na mga writers. And lately, nag-enroll ako sa pelikula. Natuto na rin akong magturo sa choir, oral conducting. Kung theater lang, baka hindi ako naging effective. You need to earn the respect of your employees. So my point is, people in the academy must be experts in the arts. At marami tayong gano'n. Baka mamaya, hindi masama sila, iba ang mapunta sa academy. Number 2, you need to know arts management. It's essential because you need to establish your annual cultural events from January until December and coordinate with other agencies and the people in the community. So I need to attend workshops and seminars on arts management. Kasama ako sa NCCA-CDA. Then exposures to festival organization and administration, community organizing, and legislations. Legislation is very important. Kaya nga, pumasok na rin ako, nag-study na rin ako ng law. Not to become a lawyer, pero para lang matuto. Because every day, or may ginagawa kayo, you need to defend annually the annual budget and the plight of your employees. At saka yung mga program. So kailangan ng mga legislations. So today, I'm trying to learn cultural mapping. Second point, let the academy be administered by arts managers, experts, and cultural leaders. Number 3, you need to know how to work with the local officials. Most challenging of all, hindi pwedeng i-appoint ka na lang. Swerte ka pag ganon. You need to be involved in politics. You need to help in their elections. Pag nanalo, ma-appoint ka. Pwede. Ano kung after appointment, controlling ka? Ano na ang free expression of artists and cultural workers? You don't sacrifice it. You stand by the principles of artistic excellence and free expression. Our leaders will always give you that. They listen, especially if explained, it's best. Communication is always the best ingredient in governance. Share ko lang, sa amin dito, fortunately, hindi naman kami pinapakialaman sa mga cultural activities. kahit nga doon sa screening of the scholars. Una, may mga recommendation, pero in-explain ko sa kanila na politics is addition. Pwedeng mapasaya mo ang isang scholar, ang pamilya, pero hindi mo na ma-accommodate yung iba kasi 25 lang yung slot or 50. So maraming magagalit. So kailangan mag-hands off. Di ba? Minsan political color. Hirap. Kaya lang kailangan mong i-depensa at kailangan i-justify kung bakit kailangan mo siyang kunin. There are also instances that you need to work beyond your mandate in the arts. Kaya ako personally for 3 years, lalo-lalo na yung last, ako na ang naging chairman, nagtrabaho kami sa sports, IBRAA. So how do you work with local officials? Third point, it's performance. Kahit na magpalit ng administrasyon, kung meron kayong pinapakita na maganda, you always give your best at all times. Tatanggapin ka, tutulungan ka. Kaya lang ito yung aking tip, mga magiging head, in the future, no personal favor. Huwag kayong hihingi ng project. Hindi ko ginawa yun sa tatlong mayor. What is the reason for CACO establishment, aside from its cultural mandate? Next slide, please. Professionalism among artists, cultural workers, and cultural leaders. We work in the arts embracing the principle of volunteerism. But it cannot continue for long because we have families to feed. Hence, we made arts and culture exploits a profession like teachers, doctors, engineers, and lawyers. It's a development from volunteerism to professionalism. Ako someday, gusto kong makarinig ng isang bata, sasabihin niya, someday, in the future, I want to be a cultural worker. Wala pang ganun eh. Puro pa, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher. Ang sarap siguro pakinggan. Kung meron ng bata, maririnig mo, I want to be a cultural worker. What I'm trying to emphasize here is that artists and cultural workers auspiciously merit employment in the government and receive salaries equivalent to their qualifications. I work hard for this. In CACO, I have to defend the employees from the creation of the items up to their appointment. There are a lot of challenges along the way. Sabi ko kanina, political color. May mga magagaling pero ibang partido. Pero kailangan mong ipasok sa office at kailangan mong i-justify. Natatanggap naman. Qualifications, eligibility. Kaya ako sinabi kanina na 3 structured program kasamang academics. Why? Maraming artist, graduate, pero hindi pasado sa civil service. Ang problema dyan, pag nagtrabaho ka sa gobyerno, kailangan pasado ka sa professional or professional. So kailangan timbang. Mabuti naman at nakapag-research ako, and I did a lot of research and finally found the golden treasure for artists and cultural workers. Meaning, pwede kang magtrabaho sa gobyerno kahit na hindi ka pasado. For 1 year, pag maganda ang performance mo, very satisfactory. Bibigyan ka ng eligibility mismo ng Civil Service Commission. Ang tawag dyan, skills, eligibility, as underscored in Civil Service Memorandum Circular number 11. Today, CACO has 24 regular employees with salary grades from SG1 to SG25 and with monthly income ranging from 11,000 plus to 104,000 plus. All employees have the security of tenures under the Civil Service Commission. And after retirement, everyone receives his or her respective pension from the GSIS. If we succeed in establishing the Philippine Theater Academy, the most disturbing question that will haunt us is, where will the artist students go after graduation? Anong trabaho nila? Nga? Or employment na lang? Maybe in a call center agency? If that happens, the purpose of the academy is defeated. Next slide, please. The enormous and thought-provoking task here is we need to generate employment for culture and the arts sector. How? By creating culture and arts offices in all local government units, replicating CACO, Calbayog City, parallel to the establishment of the academy. Hindi po siguro pwedeng academy lang. At huwag tayong aasa palagi sa pribadong sektor. Next slide, please. Imagine natin to. The Philippines has 1,488 municipalities, 146 cities, 81 provinces, total LGUs, 1,715, times 24 employees on the average. Kasi yung iba, yung mayayaman lugar, pwedeng mas marami pa. Naal nga, Sir Al, meron silang 50 plus. So, if we multiply that, that is 41,160 cultural workers to be employed nationwide with security of tenure and pension, aside those being employed by the Cultural Center of the Philippines, NCCA, and other cultural institutions run by the government. That's a ballpark figure. The number can increase in time. In CACO, solo muna ako na permanent employee. Then, naging 3. Dumami hanggang naging 24. As we also have our casual employees. Next slide, please. I have been advocating for the creation of cultural offices and councils for the following reasons. Hindi ko rin sinasabing masama ang council, pero pwedeng i-partner ang council at saka art offices. Ito yung difference. Sa arts councils, walang full-time membership. Academy yung iba sa gobyerno, yung iba abogado. So, hindi nagtatrabaho full-time. Yung mga opisina, full-time employees, they work 5 or maybe beyond 5 o'clock. Arts councils, ang budget per project. Arts offices, may annual budget appropriation. Sa arts councils, may allowances and stipend. Arts offices, may monthly salary and bonuses. Sa arts councils, no security of tenure. Sa arts offices, may security of tenure. Sa arts councils, no retirement pension. Sa arts offices, with retirement pension. Is this possible? Again, I have faith, yes. We have CACO po in Calbayog City. All local government units can create the same office with the help of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. It is in their mandate. Next slide, please. Let's try to review RA 7356, the creation of the NCCA 1992, under the implementing rules and guidelines on the role of local, provincial, regional cultural arts council. That's the title, arts councils. But if you will try to read and pay attention to the intent of the law or the provision, ibang makikita mo. It says here, in the promotion, development, and implementation of its programs and plans, the Commission, through the proper resolution and in its discretion, shall decide whether or not, meaning it's incumbent upon the NCCA, to establish local, provincial, regional agencies. Agencies are offices or representations of the NCCA. Or, in the alternative, assist in the creation of local, provincial, regional culture and arts councils. Sabi ko kanina, walang masama doon sa arts councils. Kaya lang, alternative yun merong primary. Pwede ang regional offices or local offices. Next slide, please. We also have the support of the DILG. Ang kanilang memorandum circular posted sa website noong October 2. This is under the PDP 2017-2022, Chapter 7. Anong sinasabi doon sa PDP? It highlights the establishment of local culture and arts councils, LCACs. Again, the title, it says arts councils. So basahin natin ang intensyon. The rationale is to establish offices for culture and the arts in the local government units with a mandate to protect and promote local cultural heritage and arts. Next slide, please. On the other hand, Article 5, Section 14, Paragraph B, Republic Act 10066 stipulates that local government units, through their cultural offices, again, shall likewise maintain an inventory of cultural property under its jurisdiction and shall furnish the Commission a copy of the same. And another welcoming circular from the DILG is Memorandum Circular Number 2019-44 on the Seal of Good Local Governance, SGLG. Next, please. Seal of Good Local Governance puts premium to integrity and good performance, as it seeks to institutionalize the continuity of local government reforms and development. It is a progressive assessment system that gives LGUs a distinction to the remarkable performance across several areas. Under policy content and guidelines, the SGLG applies the all-in assessment system where the LGU must pass the 7 governance areas to it. Ibig sabihin yan, hindi po tayo nakapasa sa 7, hindi po tayo bibigyan ng award ng SGLG. Fortunate for Calbayog, nakapasok po kami, naging awardee po kami. Ano itong 7? 1, financial administration. Second, disaster preparedness. Third, social protection. Peace and order. Business friendliness and competitiveness. Number 6, environmental protection. And number 7, tourism, culture, and the arts. Importante siya. Kasama siya. Ito hindi natin ginawa or hindi kasama sa programa, hindi ka papasa sa SGLG. 1987 pa ang Constitution. 1992 ang NCCA law. Nagamit na po namin sa Calbayog in 1994. Gamitin po natin sa bansa. Sayang, 28 years na lumipas. The challenge is daunting, but we can saturate our brimming energies and push for the gains of arts to be sustained. We know that the community created by arts and culture is potentially a great source of inspiration for politicians and government leaders. We can gallantly convince them to establish the Philippine Theater Academy and to create culture and arts offices in the LGUs. Hari nawa. Mga salamat.
Jonas Lim, thank you so much. It's so refreshing to hear from our government public servants and cultural workers. Very intelligent, very knowledgeable. Public servants. And thank you for reminding us of the mandates of the Constitution and the memorandum of DILGs, reminding us of our rights and responsibilities as cultural workers, and for sharing your practical experience from the ground and the praxis and the framework and bringing light into these dark times. Sometimes very, the situation in the government, the corruption brings a lot of disillusionment and frustration. But you're giving us some hope, the beautiful things that you've said, refreshing enough to listen to about CACO, the competence, performance. No, you were saying, even mentioning professionalism, no personal favors. I think it is very important also when you're saying, also good to know that there is something like skills eligibility for our cultural workers. No, kung hindi man, they were not able to take the exams, there is another way to qualify them. And I think the cultural praxis, the LARA, is very, very important in bringing that level of leadership in the government. And as a challenge of taking it as also a framework for the Academy of the Philippine Theater. Thank you also for bringing us also, again, reminding us of how we need to increase our tribes of becoming more forward in terms of being part of the seats in the government. Ang hamon sa mga artista, kayo ba ay tatakbo rin ang mga ganda ninyo? Tatakbo rin ba kayo? Filimon, Kuya Arman, na magagandang mayor, ha? Na matatalino at magagaling, no? At may character, may values, may vision. Ayan na. So yan, hamon ni Jonas sa inyong lahat. So para sa ating ganda ng mga sinabi mong scholar ng bayan, no? You start them young, support them, and mukhang maraming mag-a-agree at susuporta sa sinasabi mong dapat full scholarship. Merong tuition, free tuition, at gusto ba natin yan, Filimon? Siyempre, merong libre at meron pang allowance, no? Kailangan may talagang suportado ang mga artists, hindi magugutom, kaya kailangan magiging magaling silang mga leaders, no? At siyempre, sinasabi rin ni Jonas, hindi pwedeng basta-basta lang ang mga faculty at administration. Kailangan qualified cultural leaders. May character, responsible, no? Merong magandang track record, kanilang expertise, no? So, napakagaling, no? Isang tularan siguro na another way of siguro saying, to become a cultural worker just like Jonas, he has to learn all the skills. He has to equip himself. Ganon ka-independent. Hindi pwedeng papalakpak at ngingiti-ngiti ka lang dyan. You have to be arts manager. No, galing ha. Kailangan maging lawyer ka pa. Kailangan nag-aral pa talaga si Jonas. Know how to work with other people. No, you know the politics in your community. Kailangan you have to be an expert in the arts. That's very inspiring, Jonas. We need to be versatile. We need to be very able to converse. We need to learn their language. How do you talk to politicians when you don't know their language? No, it's very important. So sana nawa I made the Academy of the Philippine Theater produce leaders, no, with strong values and character, responsible, dignified, no, with love for culture and the arts, no, well-paid professionals and recognized for their expertise, no. Maraming salamat. Salamat po sa apat nating magagaling na resource persons. Very inspiring po. At ito naman ang pagkakataon natin ngayon. Marami po tayong actually mga tanong po sa inyo. Nandito na po sa chat box. Pupunta na po tayo sa ating open forum. So sa mga nagtanong na po, nandito na ngayon ang dami nating mga tanong. Marami pong nag-comment sa inyo. Sige, ito po siguro. Sa dami nating mga tanong,
I just wanted to say na for everyone that Ma'am Emmy couldn't join us anymore. She had to leave because her hometown of Tubigon is quite a distance from where she was. No? So sige, pero nandito pa po yung tatlo nating resource persons. I just want to mention.
Meron pong mga nag-message po galing po kay Raul Windel. Impressive vision, no? Vision, and I'm one of the pioneer, values-oriented and cultural-oriented. So maraming salamat daw. God bless. May tanong po tayo, question, galing po kay Miss Ferry Matige. Kuya Arman, sabi po niya, para po sa inyo ito, thanks for inspiring us with your practice in Bulacan, which came first and development integration, the many local artists that shape a consciousness of culture as driver for development, or the historical value of the province that produce many artists. Uulitin ko lang po. Which came first daw po as driver of culture and development integration? The many local artists that shape a consciousness of culture as driver for development, or the historical value of the province that produce many artists? Kuya, baka-mute po kayo.
Yeah, okay. Palagay ko pareho lang yun. Pareho siyang kailangan. Yung history ng Bulacan kasi nandun na yun eh. Pero kung wala namang interest yung mga tao diyan, yung mga cultural workers to dig on it, wala rin. So palagay ko yung driver talagang kailangan meron din talaga nag-aaral ng para sa kultura at para sa sining. Bukod pa doon sa environment, mayroon na nakalatag na. So, kailangan pareho yun.
Maraming salamat po. Meron po tayong isang comment din galing po kay Madam Cecil Alvarez. Para po kay Mr. Al Tesoro, mabuhay ka Al for heritage, history, habitat, multi-arts, creative indigenous industry, mother tongue-based sustainable tourism programs. Dapat local government should consider culture and arts as an essential ingredient for community development. Sulong, arts is a right of every citizen. And sabi pa niya, yes, linkages, coordination, partnerships are crucial. Interdisciplinary, integrated, holistic, and strategy. Again, Viva Al! Galing po kay Madam Cecil Alvarez.
Do I have to respond?
Kung meron po kayong gusto i-respond po, sige po.
Maraming salamat. Si Ma'am Cecil ay naging bahagi din ng aming cultural work dito sa probinsya ng CAPIZ, and marami rin siyang naibahagi dito. Kung titingnan namin, titingnan ko in a wider perspective yung experience namin dito sa CAPIZ, produkto kami ng pagmamahal ng mga cultural workers ng buong Pilipinas. Kasama ka dyan, Rosa. Kasama dyan si Desa, si Gardy, si Nestor, si Bong Antonio, at iba pa, no? Na galing from zero, scratch, no? When I started my cultural work in Sigma way back in 1998. So, ito lahat ay produkto kami ng collaboration, ng linkaging, no, with NCCA, with CCP. I remember going to CCP in 1999. Wala akong kakilala, gwardiya lang ang tinanungan ko. Pumunta rin ako ng NCCA, gwardiya din. Tapos may nag-explain sa akin about their programs. Nakatunga nga ako, lumabas ako ng NCCA, hilong-hilo ako, hindi ko maintindihan. But then I started my journey there, no, with NCCA, and the rest, no, is history. So ano-anong ibig kong sabihin? Kailangan yung especially sa government workers, kailangan yung ganong pag-iisip na bukas. Kaya nga ito yung advocacy ko dito, advocacy namin sa CAPIZ, na walang turfing, no, sa provincial government na kami lang dito, kami lang na taga-budget, kami lang taga-accounting. Hindi, ngayon na unti-unti ko na nabasag yan, no? Na everybody's affair, every tourism or cultural work, cultural development is everybody's affair. So it starts with where you are. At I'm happy na unti-unting at lalong lumalapad yung mga kamalayan. Ang isa lang dito kung minsan dahil namulat mo sa kamalayan, no, on cultural development, marami ngayong mga quote-unquote demands, no? Dapat ganitong gawin, dapat ganito, dapat meron tayo, dapat ganyan. So, ang tingin ko dyan ay because we steer the pond, ngayon maraming lumalabas na ay marami palang dapat gawin, no? And so again, kung maraming dapat gawin, marami rin dapat tayong workers, no? At kami, we lack, inaamin ko, we lack expertise sa lahat ng bagay in culture, arts, no? So ang ginagawa namin ngayon, yung tinatawag namin na projectization, na pag may isa kaming event, isa kaming project, ino-offer ko yan sa community, nagpapatawag ako. Sinong may kaya nito, sinong gusto nito, sino. So it makes our life easier. No, we provide the funds, we provide the venue. Ang importante kasi that the provincial government or the local government unit provides a conducive policy atmosphere. Ito yung importante. We are providing a conducive policy atmosphere wherein creativity will thrive, wherein artistry will grow, no? So yan ang importante sa local government, and ito maraming nai-inspire. So sabi ko, sige, sama-sama tayo. No, nung mag-MGCQ kami dito, marami akong tinawag na mga artist kasi nakikita ko sa social media, naglalabasan ng mga artist, yung kanilang mga artworks, yung kanilang mga choreography. Tinawag ko yan lahat sa office. Paano tayo magtulungan? No? Nagsilabasan kayo during the lockdown. So, ay, dito pala ang yaman. So ngayon, marami na kami ngayong projects na nagagawa at gagawin pa. Yun po.
Maraming salamat po, Kuya Al. Sana po itong mga pinag-uusapan natin, this discussion is going to be heard by other LGUs or other cultural workers sa iba't ibang, how many thousands? 1,700 plus na mga LGUs natin. Marami po silang matututunan talaga. For our last bet, I think we need to look at the time now, and we have one more, I think, very, very important question for Jonas. This is coming from Ms. Ferry Mutige. Jonas, very interesting assumption in governance, no? So artists and cultural workers as government leaders. What particular behavioral or value contribution do artists and cultural workers show aside from being artists and cultural workers, that make them better leaders. I had been with many of them for 50 years in NGO and government leadership, and I cannot identify one distinct virtue that makes them special leaders that is not shared by good leaders who are not artists.
Ian, thank you for the question, Ms. Faye. Ang dami mo, andyan kayo, andyan si Gardy, ang dami ng dapat retireable, pero bakit nandyan pa rin kayo? It's because of the commitment. Nakikita ko kasi sa mga artists yung commitment. Walang alibay, no excuses. Pag may gagawin, tatrabahoin, kahit walang pondo, gagawa ng paraan. Disiplina, obedience. Yun ang gusto natin makita sa mga leaders. Diba? Kahit na walang rason-rason eh. Kailangan talagang magsilbi ng tao. Kumbaga ang definition ng governance, in-spell yung governance, ito yung spelling. S-E-R-V-I-C-E. Service. Salamat po.
Salamat, Jonas. Siguro may last comment pa po tayo. Galing po kay Raul Wendel de la Riva. As a teacher and former performer of CACO, indeed, DepEd K-12 curriculum in the area of arts need the Philippine Arts Academy, clearly stated as from Sir Jonas Lim, lay down the structures and feature may be adopt and point of reference. Thank you po for this for the distinct characteristics and commitment and dedication. Ayan po, salamat po at ito marami tayong natutunan sa ating mga resource person. Ngayon naman po, pakinggan natin, tawagin natin ang ating synthesizer po for her synthesis this afternoon. Tawagin po natin si Miss Leia Espaliardo.
Magandang hapon sa lahat ng nakikinig o magandang gabi na. Anyway, let me share my synthesis for the day. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng nag-present sa apat na speakers and at the same time sa lahat ng mga nagtanong at nag-share ng kanilang opinions din and comments about the topic. So for today, napaka-interesting nung ating topic. It's about theater in development and governance. And this is all for the establishment of Philippine theater. This is the reason why we are here, no? So I'd like to start with Emmy's metaphor of bukag. Napaka-interesting nung metaphor ni Emmy as a parang way to start the synthesis. Kasi yung bukag, nilagyan ko na lang siya ng bisikleta kasi according dun sa presentation ni Emmy, kailangan may it's like a vessel na itinatakbo mo sa iba't ibang lugar. Nagdadala ka ng goods sa iba't ibang lugar, no? So I think napaka-appropriate ng image ng bukad at ng image na ito to look at theater in development and governance, no? So sa mga narinig ko mula dun sa apat na experts and voices mula sa iba't ibang lugar ng Pilipinas, ang unang realization ko ay buhay na buhay ang teatro. At napakasarap sa puso, napakasarap sa kaluluwa na kahit papaano binigyan ninyo ng maraming mukha kung paano ang teatro sa rehiyon, sa probinsya, sa community at sa puso ng mga cultural workers experiences na ibinahagi ninyo. Buhay na buhay ang teatro sa iba't ibang forma, hugis, structure, expressions, and lengguwahe, no? Buhay na buhay ang teatro sa iba't ibang gamit, functions, and tools, and medium, at bilang driver. Isa siyang driving force, whether it's for, sabi ni Emmy again kanina, whether it's for social transformation, or whether it's for promoting tourism, or whether it's for safeguarding cultural heritage. So, buhay na buhay ang teatro sa loob ng development and governance aspect, no? Diniscuss ng apat, masasabi ko, nasaan doon ang theater, no? Nasaan ang teatro, saan nakalugar ang teatro sa usapin ng kaunlaran at ng governance. Una, ang teatro ay nakapaloob nandun sa vision of safeguarding cultural heritage and promoting cultural development. Madalas nababanggit yan ng 4 na speakers. No? Pangalawa, ang teatro ay nasa loob ng pagbubuo ng collective memory natin as people and as a nation. So it is there. It is very much present in historizing, in commemorating history of our nation and our people, no? Theater is also present in developing tourism industry, no? At ang importante doon, a tourism that is responsible and a tourism that is sustainable and ecologically safe, parang ganun, or sense ecologically nurturing, no? So nandoon ang teatro. At buhay na buhay din ng teatro, nandoon siya sa loob ng pag-address at pagpo-promote ng iba't ibang issues ng development and building a sustainable and creative communities. When we talk about creative communities, klaro yung isinare ng mga experts at speakers na these are group of people sharing the same cause who acts together to create and share as people, no? So yun yung isang aspect, no, kung nasaan ng teatro. Pero balikan natin yung 3 tanong. There are 3 essential questions that this Sabadulaan has been probing or pursuing from the beginning, no? Unang tanong ay yung ano ang contributions ng mga speakers natin ngayon, yung konteksto nila, yung karanasan nila in shaping the academy. Yan yung mga tinutukan nilang sagutin. Pangalawa na tanong at sinubukan nilang sagutin ay ano ang magiging content ng academy and pedagogical standards as envisioned by our speakers for today. At pangatlong area ay ano ngayon ang magiging structure, whether it's space, it's organizational, or human resource structure, ang nakikita nitong mga speakers na ito sa pagbubuo ng Philippine Theater Academy. At ganito ko siya sinuma, no? In developing the Philippine Theater Academy, ang contributions ng ating mga speakers based on their karanasan, experiences, and expertise, unang-una ay context, yung sarili-sarili nilang context as the impetus, no? May kanya-kanyang cultural context, may kanya-kanyang environmental context, no? Pangalawa, napaka-importante na binanggit yung legal basis. Importante yan para sa ating mga cultural workers kasi siya yung magiging basis natin ng claims, entitlements, and assertion for a space to engage in governance and the system. Because we are in development and governance, we are talking about a system that is by the government, no? At ang pangatlong importante na i-contribute sa sharing ng karanasan nila ay yung klaro sa 4 na ito, they have their own vision, mission, shared values, and goals. At makikita mo doon, nasa loob yan ng system of governance, no? May ang mga LGUs ay may napaka-progressive na vision, mission, goals, and shared values. At magandang ma-take advantage yon ng Philippine Theater Academy. Pang-4, ang sunod ay yung pedagogical and aesthetic praxis. These are the lived experiences. Ito yung the lived experiences of our people, no? In community theater, in governance, in institution, network, and so forth and so on. Ito yung mga nabanggit na nila kanina. So ito yung contributions ng kanilang karanasan dun sa pag-develop ng Philippine Theater Academy. Pangalawang area ay ano naman yung nakikitang content and pedagogy. Merong interesting na sinabi or pinopose si Jonas, 3-structured program academy sana siya, wherein you don't only focus on arts, but you also focus on 3 tracks: leadership, academics, and cultural development. In terms of methodology, it would be interesting to make it modular and promote a cross-cultural learning and exchange, or what we call as immersion, sa iba't ibang lugar, no? Iba't ibang places and regions. Tapos ang sunod, in terms of content naman, ito yung mga proposed content. Hindi ko na iisa-isahin pero binanggit na nila ito kanina, no? Ang importante siguro dun sa ay make it yung sustainable, yung parang having a content on building a sustainable and creative communities, no? Tapos yung panghuli in terms of content naman ay it has to be culture-centered and values-oriented. Pag sinabing values-oriented, these are the universal values that we talk about as human beings. The democratic values, inclusive, participatory, collaborative. So all those values has to be shared and has to be part of the pedagogical principles, no? Both as content and principle. And then when it comes to structure, paano siya ano magiging itsura niya? Importante na dapat state-sponsored siya kasi may legal basis. Meron kang claim, meron kang entitlement. It's in our constitution, it's in the international conventions, it's in the local government codes, maraming mga ordinances na pwedeng gamitin as legal basis. And in fact, the tourism department or kung anumang mga ahensya, merong basis for helping itong pagbubuo ng Theater Academy. Tapos yung isang forma rin niya, maging isang regional learning center, magkaroon siya ng kanya-kanyang hub or center. I think madalas itong nauulit sa previous sessions. It has to have a strong existing structural base na ang sinasabi, it has to be regionalized, no, as well. It cannot be just in one area, but it has to be regionalized, run and managed by qualified cultural leaders with strong social infrastructure. And Jonas was talking about leadership, but it has to be a new approach to leadership. We cannot go on as usual with our ways. I mean, may critic si Jonas about the paradox of governance. There is that dark side, but there is also a window for change. And we are calling, it has to call for a new kind of leadership, no? And arts need to be revolutionized, no? Yun yung mga lumabas na mga punto na ibinahagi. Ang gusto kong i-reiterate, the 3R question. Ito pa ulit-ulit. Kaya ako siya tinawag na 3R because it's actually redundant. It's actually, it could be rhetorical, but these questions are requisites. These are requisite questions that all of us should answer and all of us should collectively share. Should we decide to be part of, should we all decide to be part of this Philippine Theater Academy? Why an academy and for whom? What will set the academy apart from the rest? What does it want to achieve? Is it sustainable enough and how? Paulit-ulit yan na tanong na naririnig ko in the past sessions, no? At maaring may iba-iba tayo ng sagot, may iba tayo ng agenda, pero kailangan collectively shared yon, no? Kahit pa siya ay redundant, rhetorical, but these are requisite questions, no? So, okay, dun sa pag-engage, dun sa pagbubuo ng Philippine Theater Academy, importante itong ingredients, di ba? We need the state, we need the system support, and we need to engage the state and the system. So, two-pronged yon. Kasi hindi natin kakayanin ito kung ang gagawa lamang nito ay private citizens. Kailangan talaga support ng Estado, support ng gobyerno, at support ng local units, no? So, but we also engage the government to look at the perspective of cultural workers on how we make development sustainable and how we make governance more democratic and human-oriented, no? And then it has to be collective and it has to be owned by collective and the community that we work with. And then of course, importante yung kahit na regionalized siya or may regional centers, importante ang critical representation. From the most vulnerable to lahat ng klase ng representations na mayroon ang Pilipinas, no? At nabanggit ko yung a new type of leadership that is transformative. So importante na yun ang ingredients nung Philippine Theater Academy na yun. So ito, gusto kong i-raise as a creative challenge. In relation to all these points, no, or things that were shared, ano yung creative challenge na gusto kong i-raise? No? We need to build a continuum. While we are envisioning a very nice idea of a Philippine Theater Academy, we have to build from what already exists, di ba? From lived experiences to emergent learnings, no? Ang daming nangyayari ngayon sa lipunan na never nangyari in the past at lahat tayo ay caught unaware. So how do we build from our lived experiences to how we live now, the challenges of the now, no? Like for example, can we build on, let's say, Philippine High School for the Arts and develop that as one regional center of the Philippine Theater Academy so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel because there is already an existing school, then we just expand it. So that's an example of building a continuum, or start from BOHOL's feasibility of a structure, then we build on that. Let's start on that, and then we expand the idea. Parang that's the idea of how we should build a continuum as my creative challenge. The second creative challenge, ito usong-uso ito ngayon sa advertising at saka sa marketing, no? Yung pivot sa nangyayari sa atin ngayon, the 21st century call, yung the COVID or even the post-COVID, we all need to shift. We need to, kung dito tayo nakatingin ngayon, maganda yung sinabi kanina ni may nagsabi kanina na kailangan nating baguhin ang ating old ways. So we need to shift and pivot so that we respond to the 21st century call for creative destruction. What do we mean by creative destruction? It's actually, since we are in a creative industry, creative destruction is like the need for innovation, the need to shift and destroying old habits to create a new one. Ganyan ang nagiging demand sa atin ngayon in many aspects of our lives. We need to innovate, we need to digitally shift, and we need to transform our old ways of doing things. So, kaya importante yung medyo gaganong ka lang. And in fact, it's important that we also curricularize this pivoting experience, no? So, how do we do that? It has to be part of our skills and competency building among our cultural workers, yung agility to shift. Tapos yung siguro yung last point ay the essential, focus on the essential, what critical essencing. While we are talking about regionalized expression of Philippine Theater Academy, we have to have a critical perspective of what regionalized means, di ba? From cultural diversity to governance to identity, we need to have that process of critical essencing. Go for the core. If we use the metaphor of iceberg, the iceberg metaphor, di ba? Yung nakikita mo yung nasa taas, abutin natin yung pinaka-ilalim ng iceberg kasi yun yung core na dapat nating i-unfold para makuha natin ang esensya at ang core so that we can problematize everything and nothing and whatever happens in between, di ba? So, lahat ng aspects ng pinag-usapan natin kanina needs a critical reading and a critical perspective. But we also have to come into terms that we cannot come up with an absolute truth about all this, no? Ang importante lang, ano ang ating position, ano ang ating true north, ano ang ating shared values as cultural workers. And on that note, ibabalik ko uli ang image dun sa bukag na ibinigay ni Emmy kanina. Gamitin natin ang bisikleta at dalhin natin ang bukag na ito, ang basket na ito sa iba't ibang lugar at padayon lang. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Ms. Lea Espaliardo, sa napakagaling at comprehensive na synthesis. At dahil po ito'y gagabihin na tayo, alam ko gusto niyo pa rin makinig. Pero ito na po, dito na po nagtatapos ang makahulugang Tampok Sabadulaan. No? This wraps up another episode of our Tampok, no? Sabadulaan, Conversations on Theater. We'd like to thank our wonderful resource persons, Al Tesoro, Armando Sta Ana, Amy Roslinda, and Jonas Lim. Join us again next Saturday, September 12, when we tackle theater organizing and networking in relation to the establishment of the Academy of the Philippine Theater. We will be joined by Edward Perez, Robert Bobet Mendoza, Romy Narvaez, and Rudy Riveche. Mabuhay at padayon!
Maraming salamat.
Pagsanib mga bayani ng sining at kultura, lumikha ng sandigan tungo sa kaganapan. Harapin hamon ng bagong panahon, bigyang ilaw ang karinlan. Magsuri pag-isipan ng hulmahan ng ating linangan sa puntahan tungkol sa dulaan. Ituloy ang paghahabi ng kamalayan, paghahabi ng karanasan, paghuhubog ng kasaysayan, tayo't makilahok sa Tampok Sabadulaan.